The first shot was fired at 2:17 inches the morning. By sunrise, 3 warehouses had burned along the south side. 2 corrupt detectives had vanished from their own precinct parking lot, and every major crime family in Chicago had received the same message written in black ink on expensive white paper. Touch the nurse again, and I bury your bloodline. No one understood it. Not the police. Not the politicians who pretended they were clean. Not the men who had spent 20 years fearing the name Luca Moretti. Because Luca Moretti did not start wars over women. He used them, protected them when useful, abandoned them when dangerous, loved nothing except power, silence, and revenge served slowly. But that morning, the entire city woke to the truth that someone had made the most dangerous man in Chicago emotional. And emotion, in a man like Luca, was more terrifying than rage. 3 nights earlier, Elena Carter had been working her second double shift at St. Mercy Hospital, wearing pale blue scrubs with coffee stains near the pocket and exhaustion beneath her eyes. The emergency room smelled like bleach, rainwater, and old fear. Outside, thunder rolled over the city. Inside, machines beeped like little warnings no one had time to obey. Elena was 26, underpaid, overworked, and invisible in the way kind. Women often became invisible when the world learned they would keep helping even after it hurt. She had just finished stitching a drunk college boy's eyebrow when the automatic doors burst open. Wind and rain rushed in first. Then came the men in black. Every conversation in the ER died instantly. 5 of them entered with the disciplined silence of soldiers, suits soaked from the storm, eyes moving across the room like weapons. Behind them, 2 more men pushed a gurney so fast one wheel screamed against the tile. On the bed lay a man covered in blood, not just wounded, destroyed. His black shirt had been torn open, exposing a chest slick with rain and red. A bullet wound bled near his ribs. Another dark stain spread beneath his shoulder. His face was pale, beautiful in a brutal way, with sharp cheekbones, a hard jaw, and wet black hair clinging to his forehead. Elena reached the gurney before anyone else moved. "Trauma Bay 3, she ordered. One of the men grabbed her arm. "You don't touch him unless we say you touch him." Elena looked down at his hand, then up at his face. "Then he dies, while you finish deciding." The man's grip tightened. That was when the wounded man opened his eyes. Dark, cold, unfocused from blood loss, still powerful enough to make the armed men around him freeze. His gaze moved slowly until it found Elena, and for one impossible second, the noise of the ER disappeared. He stared at her as if he had seen her before, as if he knew something about her that she did not know about herself. Then his bloody fingers lifted from the sheet and wrapped around her wrist. The room went still. His grip was weak, but every man around him reacted as if he had given an order. Elena should have pulled away. Instead, she felt his thumb press once against her pulse. A warning, a claim, a plea. His voice came out rough, barely alive. "Only her." One of the men leaned closer. "Boss, she's just a nurse." The wounded man's eyes sharpened with sudden violence. "Only her." That was the first time Elena Carter heard Luca Moretti speak. It was also the first time Chicago's most feared Mafia boss chose her in front of witnesses. She did not know his name yet. She did not know that powerful men had spent years avoiding eye contact with him. She did not know that by placing her hands on his bleeding body, she had stepped into a war older than her own grief. All she knew was that the man on her table was dying, and somehow, everyone in the room looked more afraid of saving him than losing him. Elena cut through his shirt with trauma scissors. His bodyguards watched her like wolves. The doctor on call hesitated near the doorway, pale and useless. "Move," Elena snapped, "or get out." Luca's eyes followed her through the pain. Not soft, never soft. but locked onto her with a strange, terrifying focus, like even unconsciousness would have to fight him for permission to take his attention away. When she pressed gauze to the wound near his ribs, he flinched. "Stay with me," she said. His mouth curved faintly, almost cruelly. "Careful, nurse." His voice was barely a whisper. "Men have died for saying that to me." Elena leaned closer, her hands covered in his blood. "Then don't make me say it twice." For the first time, something flickered in his eyes. Amusement, interest, possession. Then his gaze shifted past her shoulder. One of his men was standing too close, too tense, too ready to interfere. Luca's expression changed. The air went colder. "Elena," he murmured. She froze. She had never told him her name. Before she could ask how he knew it, every light in the ER went out. For half a second, the hospital plunged into darkness. Then the emergency lights flashed red. A nurse screamed. Gunfire erupted outside, and Luca Moretti, bleeding beneath Elena's hands, smiled like the devil had finally arrived exactly on time. The emergency lights painted everything red. For one breath, Elena thought the blood on her hands had climbed onto the walls. Then the screams came. A burst of gunfire cracked through the storm outside St. Mercy's glass entrance. Nurses dropped behind counters. A mother pulled her crying child under a chair. Somewhere, metal crashed against tile as an instrument tray overturned. Elena's hand stayed pressed to Luca Moretti's wound. Every instinct in her body told her to run, but his fingers tightened around her wrist. Not enough to hurt, enough to remind her he was still there. "Do not move," he whispered. His voice was almost gone, dragged through pain and blood loss, but somehow it carried more authority than every alarm screaming through the hospital. Elena looked at him in disbelief. "You're bleeding out, and you're giving orders?" His dark eyes held hers. "I'm saving your life." Before she could answer, one of his bodyguards slammed the trauma bay doors shut and locked them. Another pulled a gun from beneath his suit jacket. The doctor on call went white and backed into the wall like a man who had accidentally wandered into the wrong nightmare. "Elena's Puls, Hammer. Put that away," she snapped. The guard barely glanced at her. Then Luca spoke again. "Marco." The guard froze. "Put it away." Marco hesitated. "Boss." Luca's eyes cut to him. That was all. The weapon disappeared beneath the jacket. Elena should have been terrified by how quickly powerful men obeyed him. Instead, some small, reckless part of her noticed something worse. They feared disappointing him more than they feared dying. The red emergency lights flickered. Rain lashed against the windows. Through the glass wall of the trauma bay, Elena saw shadows moving near the entrance, security guards shouting, patients crawling away from the lobby, men in dark clothing running through the rain. This was not a random attack. This was a message. And somehow, the message had followed the man bleeding beneath her hands. "You brought a war into my hospital," Elena said. Luca watched her through half-lowered lashes. "No." His breathing hitched. "I brought it away from you." The words made no sense, but they landed inside her chest with a strange, cold weight. Elena forced herself to focus. She had survived chaos before. Not gunfire, not mafia men, not a dying stranger who knew her name, but pain, fear, and people needing her when she had nothing left to give. Those things she understood. She pushed more gauze against his ribs. "I need suction. 2 large bore 4s. Blood. Now." No one moved fast enough. Elena turned sharply to the doctor, Dr. Haynes. He blinked at her, as if waking. "I need you here," she said lower this time. "Not frozen. Here." His eyes darted to Luca, then to the men guarding the doors. "Do you know who that is?" "No," Elena said. "And right now, I don't care." That was not true. She cared, because the entire room was bending around this man like gravity had changed, because his blood was warm beneath her palms, because when he looked at her, Something inside her felt seen in a way that was almost violent, but she would not let that matter. Not now, not while someone was dying. The hospital generator kicked fully on, bringing back harsh white light. The red shadows retreated, but the fear stayed. Elena worked. She cleaned the wounds, pressed where he bled too much, checked his pupils, shouted instructions, ignored the armed men, ignored the gunfire fading outside, ignored the way Luca's gaze returned to her again and again, as if pain was only a distraction and she was the real emergency. His blood pressure dropped. "Stay with me," she said again. This time there was no challenge in her voice, only command. His lips parted slightly. "You always talk to dying men like this?" "Only the stubborn ones." A faint smile touched his mouth, then vanished as his body seized with pain. Elena leaned over him. Luca. The name came out before she realized. She knew it. She froze. So did he. For the first time, something vulnerable moved behind his eyes. Not fear. Recognition, as if hearing his name from her mouth had cut deeper than the bullets. One of the guards stared at her. "How do you know his name?" Elena swallowed. "I heard one of you say it." No one had. She knew that. Luca knew that. His fingers brushed hers, leaving a streak of blood across her wrist. "Liar," he whispered, but he said it almost gently. Then his eyes rolled back. The monitor screamed. Elena moved faster than thought. For 6 minutes, Luca Moretti stopped being a dangerous man and became a body trying to die on her table. Elena fought him like death, was a person she could insult into backing down. She compressed. She ordered medication. She pressed her hands into his chest and felt ribs beneath skin, muscle beneath blood, a life too violent and stubborn to slip quietly away. At some point, the doctor finally helped. At some point, the guards stopped breathing. At some point, Elena heard herself say, "No, you don't get to do this. You don't get to drag hell into my ER and then leave me with the mess." The monitor gave one weak beep, then another, then a rhythm. Slow, unsteady, alive. Elena stood over him, chest rising hard, hair falling loose around her face. Sweat and rain and blood had blurred together on her skin. The room was silent. Not peaceful, never peaceful, but stunned. Dr. Haynes looked at her as though he had never really seen her before. Marco stepped closer to Luca, then stopped when Elena lifted one bloody hand. "He needs surgery," she said. "Now." Marco's jaw tightened. "No operating room unless we clear it. You don't clear my hospital. We clear every room he enters." Elena looked at him, exhausted and furious. "Then clear the way by getting out of mine." For a second, the guard looked ready to argue. Then Luca's hand moved, barely. 2 fingers lifted from the sheet. Marco stepped back immediately. Even unconscious, Luca was still obeyed. That should have frightened Elena. Instead, it unsettled her in a more intimate way, because his hand had moved toward her. Not toward his men, not toward safety, toward her. They took him upstairs under armed guard. The hospital administration appeared only after the danger had passed. Pale men in expensive shoes asking questions no one wanted answered. Police arrived too late and too carefully. Their eyes avoided the men in black. Their hands stayed away from their weapons. Elena watched all of it from the scrub sink outside the OR, washing Luca's blood from beneath her fingernails until her skin turned raw. It did not come off easily. Blood never did. She knew that better than most. At 6:12 inches the morning, the rain softened over Chicago. Elena sat alone in the staff locker room with a vending machine coffee cooling between her hands. Her scrubs had been replaced, but she still felt marked, like Luca's fingers had left an invisible bruise around her wrist. Her phone buzzed. 1 missed call from her landlord, 3 from a number she had blocked twice. 1 voicemail from the debt collector, who had been circling her life for months like a vulture. She did not play it. She already knew what it would say. Rent was late. Her mother's old medical debt had gone to collections. Her younger brother's community college payment was due Friday. The world did not pause just because a mafia boss bled on your hands. Elena leaned back against the metal locker and closed her eyes. Before tonight, her life had been small in the way survival made things small. Work, bills, sleep when possible, send money to her brother, ignore the letters with red stamps, ignore the ache in her feet, ignore the loneliness of returning to a studio apartment where the heat clicked strangely and the neighbor fought with her boyfriend through thin walls every Saturday night. She had not always been this tired. Once, she had wanted things. A house with yellow curtains, a nursing career that felt meaningful instead of punishing, a family that did not need saving every month, someone who noticed when she was quiet. Then her mother got sick. Then her father left. Then hospital bills became envelopes, and envelopes became threats, and threats became numbers Elena could never outrun. So she learned to be useful. Useful girls survived. Useful girls did not complain. Useful girls smiled when patients yelled, worked overtime when supervisors begged, and pretended not to hear men call them sweetheart in voices that made their skin crawl. She had spent years becoming invisible. Then Luca Moretti looked at her like she was the only thing in a burning room worth seeing. Elena opened her eyes. Her wrist still tingled. The locker room door creaked. She turned, expecting another nurse. Instead, Marco stood in the doorway. No gun visible. No expression either. Elena Carter. Her body went cold. "What do you want?" He held out a black phone. "He asked for you." Elena stared at it. "He's in surgery." He woke up. "That's impossible." Marco's face did not change. "Tell him." Elena did not take the phone. "I'm not his private nurse." "No," Marco said. "Apparently you're something worse." Her stomach tightened. The phone buzzed in his hand. Once, twice. Marco's eyes lowered to the screen, then back to her. "You should answer." Elena stood slowly. "I don't take orders from men who bring guns into hospitals." For the first time, Marco's hard expression cracked with something almost like disbelief. Then he said quietly, "Neither did the last person he protected." A chill moved through her. "What does that mean?" Marco did not answer. The phone kept vibrating. Elena should have walked away. She should have gone home, locked her apartment door, and convinced herself the night had been a terrible accident that would never touch her again. Instead, she took the phone. The line connected before she spoke. For a moment, there was only breathing. Slow, ragged, alive. Then Luca's voice came through, dark and ruined by pain. "Elena." Her name in his mouth felt less like a word and more like a door opening somewhere she had been warned never to enter. She gripped the phone tighter. "How do you know me?" Silence. Then, somewhere on the other end, machines beeped softly. When Luca finally answered, his voice was quiet enough to make her lean closer. "Because 12 years ago, your mother saved my life." Elena stopped breathing. Her mother had been dead for 3 years, and she had never once mentioned the name Luca Moretti. Elena did not go home after that call. She told herself it was because her shift was not technically over, because Luca Moretti was still unstable, because St. Mercy was short-staffed, and walking away after a shooting felt irresponsible. All lies. She stayed because her mother's name had been dragged out of the grave by a man with bullets in his body and blood on his hands. 12 years ago, your mother saved my life. The words followed Elena through every fluorescent hallway. They followed her into the medication room while she restocked supplies with trembling hands. They followed her past the waiting area where frightened families whispered about the attack. They followed her every time she glanced at the surgical floor and saw men in black suits standing at both ends of the corridor like locked doors. Her mother had been gentle, too gentle, people used to say. A woman who baked banana bread for lonely neighbors, slipped cash into church donation boxes even when her own bills were late, and once drove 40 minutes in a snowstorm because Elena forgot her science project in the kitchen. That woman did not belong in the same sentence as Luca Moretti, and yet his voice had been certain. Not seductive, not manipulative, certain, as if the past was not a secret to him but a wound he had been keeping open. By noon, Luca was out of surgery. By 1, the hospital had turned strange. Men Elena did not recognize stood near elevators, exits, stairwells. They wore expensive coats and blank faces. Police officers came and left with nothing written down. Administrators walked too fast, avoiding questions.
Don't let go.
Nurses whispered in break rooms,
Hold on to me.
then went silent whenever Elena entered.
Not while I'm here.
She felt it immediately. The shift. Last night she had been invisible. Today, every eye touched her like a warning. At 2:30, Dr. Haynes pulled her aside near the nurse's station. His face was tight, his voice low. Elena, administration wants you reassigned off trauma. She stared at him. What? Just for a few days. Because of last night? He glanced down the hall where Marco stood beside Luca's guarded room. Because you're involved now. I treated a patient. That patient is Luca Moretti. So I've been told. Haynes exhaled sharply. You don't understand what that name means. Elena's patience snapped. I understand he was dying. I understand everyone froze. I understand I did my job while grown men with guns debated permission. His eyes hardened with fear disguised as anger. You're not listening. People who get close to him don't get normal problems anymore. They get followed, threatened, used. Elena looked toward Luca's door. 2 guards stood outside, still as statues, watching everything. Then maybe someone should ask why his enemies came to a hospital. Haynes lowered his voice. Or maybe you should ask why he knew your name before you told him. That struck too close. Elena said nothing. Haynes softened a little. You're a good nurse. One of the best we have. But this is not your world. A bitter laugh almost escaped her. Not her world. As if poverty was not dangerous. As if debt collectors did not threaten women in parking lots. As if sickness had not eaten her mother alive, while insurance companies explained denial letters in polite language. As if men with money had not always had power over girls like her. Maybe Luca's world used guns. Hers used invoices. Both left bodies behind. I need to check my patients, she said. Haynes caught her arm gently. Elena, go home. For a second, she nearly obeyed. Then her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Her stomach dropped. She already knew. She stepped away from Haynes and answered. Elena Carter, a male voice said smoothly. You've been hard to reach. She closed her eyes. Trevor, the debt collector, who had stopped sounding like a debt collector weeks ago and started sounding like a man enjoying himself. I told your office I'll make a payment Friday. You told us many things. I'm at work. I know. Elena went still. Across the hallway, Marco's eyes flicked toward her. Trevor chuckled softly. That hospital looks busy today. Lots of police, lots of expensive cars outside. You in some kind of trouble, sweetheart? Her fingers tightened around the phone. Do not call me that. I'll call you whatever I want until your mother's debt is paid. Her throat burned. The hallway seemed to narrow. That debt is in dispute. No, Elena. That debt is overdue. His voice became colder, uglier. And people who owe money should be careful about who they stand next to. She looked toward Luca's room again. The guards had noticed now. So had Haynes. Elena turned away from them, lowering her voice. Is that a threat? It's a reminder. Important men make important enemies. A broke little nurse should not confuse attention with protection. Elena's pulse pounded. How do you know about him? Trevor laughed. Everyone knows about him now. You made yourself very visible last night. The word visible slipped under her skin. She had spent years avoiding exactly that. "I have nothing to do with Luca Moretti," she said. The hallway behind her went silent, a terrible kind of silent. Elena turned. Luca was standing in the doorway of his room, barefoot, pale, one hand braced against the frame, hospital gown loose around his wounded body, an IV line tugged behind him, a bandage wrapped his ribs and shoulder. His face should have looked weak after surgery, but weakness did not know how to sit on him properly. Pain sharpened him instead, made him look carved from something darker than flesh. His eyes were on her, not on the phone, on here, as if he had heard every word. Elena's breath caught. Trevor was still talking. "You listening? Because here's what happens next. You're going to pay something today, not Friday, today. Or maybe I visit that apartment of yours and we talk in person." Luca's expression changed. No furore, no shouting. Something worse. Stillness. The kind that came before a blade moved. Elena whispered into the phone. "Don't come near my apartment." Trevor's voice dropped. "Then pay your dead mother's bills." Luca moved. Marco immediately stepped forward. "Boss." Luca ignored him. Every nurse at the station froze as he crossed the hallway toward Elena, dragging the IV stand behind him like pain was an inconvenience. Dr. Haynes cursed under his breath and rushed after him. "You cannot be out of bed," Haynes snapped. Luca did not even look at him. "Elena?" he said. Her name stopped her colder than Trevor's threat. The phone remained pressed to her ear. Luca reached her, close enough that she smelled antiseptic, rain, and something expensive beneath the blood. He held out his hand. "Give me the phone." "No." His eyes lowered to hers. Not angry, commanding. Elena. She hated the way her body reacted to his voice, hated the pull of it, hated that some reckless part of her wanted to hand him everything that had ever hurt her and watch what he would do with it. But she had survived by never giving powerful men more than they already took. "This is my problem," she said. Luca's gaze flicked to her mouth, then back to her eyes. "No," he said softly. "It became mine when he said your address." Trevor's voice snapped through the speaker. "Who the hell is that?" Elena tried to pull the phone away. Luca took it. Not violently, inevitably, like the phone had always belonged in his hand. He lifted it to his ear. For one long second, he said nothing. His silence changed the entire hallway. The nurses stopped moving. The guards straightened. Even Dr. Haynes shut his mouth. Trevor spoke first, annoyed. "Who is this?" Luca's eyes stayed on Elena. "Someone you should not have made curious." The color drained from Elena's face. Trevor scoffed, but the sound was thinner now. "You think I'm scared of some hospital boyfriend?" Luca's mouth curved faintly. There was no humor in it. "You will be." Then he ended the call. Elena stared at him. "What did you just do?" "I answered your phone. You threatened him." "No." Luca handed it back to her. "I introduced myself." Her hands shook as she took it. "That man knows where I live." "Yes. And now you made it worse." Luca leaned closer, his voice dropping. He was already coming. Her stomach fell. "You don't know that. I know men like him. Debt collectors? Predators." The word hit something old inside her. Elena looked away first. Luca noticed. Of course he noticed. His expression shifted. Not softening exactly, but focusing with terrible precision. "Has he touched you?" Her eyes flashed back to his. "No." "Has he tried?" The question was quiet. Too quiet. Elena felt everyone watching. The nurses pretending not to. The doctor pretending to check Lucas IV. The guards waiting for a name to become a death sentence. "My life is not yours to investigate," she said. Luca's jaw tightened. "No. But your safety is. You don't own me." The hallway seemed to hold its breath. Luca looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, "Not yet." Heat shot through her cheeks. Anger came with it. Good. Anger was safer. You are unbelievable. I've been called worse. I saved your life. Yes. And this is how you thank me? By taking my phone and acting like I'm some helpless thing you can manage? Luca stepped closer. The guards tensed. Elena did not move back. That mattered. She saw it in his eyes. You are not helpless, he said. That is why you are in danger.
Stay
the
with me,
words
we're
stole
almost
her
there.
anger for half a second. Then the elevator doors opened.
I won't. Hold on
Two
to me.
uniformed police
They're
officers
coming
stepped
for
out.
us.
Behind
Not
them
while
came
I'm
a
here.
man in a
Fight.
charcoal coat, silver hair neat, smile too calm for a hospital that had been shot at 12 hours earlier. Dr. Haynes stiffened. Marco's hand drifted toward his jacket. Luca did not turn, but his eyes went dark. Elena noticed. Who is that? She whispered. Luca's gaze remained on hers. Trouble wearing a badge. The silver-haired man approached slowly. Hands visible, expression polite. Mr. Moretti, he said. You look better than expected. Luca turned at last. Disappointing for you. The man smiled. Elena Carter? Her blood chilled. Luca moved before she could answer. Not dramatically, just one step, enough to place his body between her and the stranger. The man noticed. Everyone noticed. His smile widened. How touching. Elena looked from him to Luca. What is going on? The man ignored her question. I'm Deputy Commissioner Victor Hale. I need to ask you a few questions about last night's attack. Luca's voice was flat. She has nothing to say to you. Hale's eyes glittered. I wasn't asking you. Elena hated how quickly the hallway had divided itself around her. Luca, in front of her. Hale before them. Guards behind. Doctors watching. Police pretending they were not afraid. She lifted her chin. I was working during the attack. I didn't see who fired. Hale gave her a sympathetic look so fake it felt insulting. You saw enough. You treated Mr. Moretti. You were with him when the lights went out. You heard things. I heard gunfire. Did Mr. Moretti say anything to you before the attack? Elena remembered. Elena. Her name in his mouth before she had given it. Then the lights went out. Then the gunfire. No, she lied. Luca looked at her. Not surprised. Interested. Hale studied her face. You understand lying to police is serious. Elena almost laughed. After everything that had happened, that was the threat? Beside her. Luca's voice dropped into something lethal. And you understand speaking to her without counsel will be remembered. Hale's polydemask thinner. Careful, Luca. You're in a hospital. Not one of your clubs. And yet you still sound afraid. One of the officers shifted uncomfortably. Hale's eyes moved back to Elena. You have no idea who you're protecting. I'm not protecting anyone. No? Hale took a step closer. Then, why did you save him? The question was absurd, cruel. Elena's throat tightened. Because that is my job. Hale's smile sharpened. Your mother said the same thing once. The world stopped. Elena's skin went cold from scalp to fingertips. Luca's head turned slowly, very slowly. For the first time since she had met him, Elena saw his control crack, just a hairline fracture, but enough to reveal what lived underneath. Murder. What did you say? Elena asked. Hale looked almost pleased. Your mother, Grace Carter. Fine nurse. Terrible judge of character. Elena could not breathe. Grace Carter. Her mother's name sounded wrong in his mouth. Dirty. Stolen. How do you know my mother? Hale's smile faded into something older. More personal. Everyone knew Grace. Luca's voice came low. Stop talking. Hale glanced at him. Or what? You'll start another war in a hospital. The words struck the hallway like glass breaking. Another war. Elena turned toward Luca. What does he mean, another? Luca did not answer. Alevid. He didn't tell you. Of course not. His eyes returned to Elena. Luca Moretti has always been good at leaving women with questions. Luca moved. Marco caught him by the arm before he tore open his stitches or Hale's throat. The guards closed in. Police hands went to holsters. Patients gasped. Elena stepped between them without thinking. Stop. Everyone froze. Not because she had power, because Luca stopped when she spoke. His chest rose and fell hard. Blood had started to seep through the bandage under his gown. Elena saw it, and the nurse in her overpowered the terror. You're bleeding. Luca did not look down. His eyes were still on Hale. Elena grabbed his arm. Luca. That did it. His gaze dropped to her. The violence in him did not vanish, but it obeyed her. Only barely. Hale watched the exchange with open fascination. Well, he murmured. That explains a few things. Elena ignored him and pressed a hand near Luca's bandage. You need to get back in bed. I need to remove him from your sight. You need stitches that stay closed. I have survived worse. I don't care. The words came too fast, too honest. Luca went still. Elena felt the change immediately. So did everyone else. His eyes searched her face, and suddenly the hallway felt too intimate, too exposed. Hale's voice slid through the silence. Careful, Miss Carter. That is how it starts. Elena turned on him. How what starts? His eyes flicked to Luca. Ruining your life for a Moretti. Before Elena could respond, her phone buzzed again. Everyone heard it. One sharp vibration in her hand. Then another. She looked down. A photo appeared on the screen from an unknown number. Her apartment door. Taken from the hallway. Then a second photo. Her younger brother Noah outside his community college campus. Headphones on. Unaware someone had captured him from across the street. Elena's blood turned to ice.
Stay with me, we're almost there.
A message followed.
It hurts.
Pay today.
Don't let go.
Or choose which
I won't.
Carter
Hold
gets
on to
visited
me.
first.
They're coming
The
for
hallway
us.
blurred.
Not while I'm
Her
here.
fingers
Fight.
went numb. Luca took the phone from her hand, but this time she did not fight him. He looked at the photos. Something ancient and monstrous entered his face. No shouting. No curse. Just that terrible silence again. The kind that burned cities. Hale leaned slightly, as if trying to see the screen. What is it? Luca looked up. Not at Hale. At Marco. 1 hour. Marco's face changed. Whatever he saw in Luca's expression made him pale. Boss. 1 hour. Luca repeated. Find him. Elena grabbed his wrist. No. Wait. Luca's eyes lowered to where she touched him. Her hand was small against his skin. Shaking. Please, she said, hating the break in her voice. My brother doesn't know anything. Luca's expression shifted. There it was again. That dangerous, almost softness that frightened her more than his rage. He will not be touched. You can't promise that. Yes, Luca said. I can. Hale laughed quietly. Elena, listen to me very carefully. If you let him handle this, people will die. Elena looked at the photo of Noah. Her little brother, still smiling at something in his phone, standing in daylight while darkness aimed at him from a distance. Then she looked at Luca, a man who had brought violence into her hospital, a man who knew her mother, a man who looked at her brother's photo like the threat had been made against his own blood. Her voice came out barely above a whisper. What did my mother do for you? Luca stared at her. For a long moment, she thought he would finally answer. Then Marco's phone rang. He answered, listened, and his face hardened. Boss, he said. Trevor isn't working alone. Luca did not blink. Marco looked at Elena, then back at him. The order came from Hale's office. The hallway went silent. Elena turned slowly toward Deputy Commissioner Victor Hale. His polite smile was gone. For the first time, he looked exactly like what he was. Not law, not safety. Just another powerful man standing too close to someone vulnerable. Luca stepped forward, blood seeping through his bandage, eyes black with promise. Hale took one step back. Elena saw it. Everyone saw it. The Deputy Commissioner of Chicago was afraid of the wounded man in a hospital gown. Then Luca spoke, soft enough that only the nearest people could hear. "You used her mother once." His gaze moved to Elena, then back to Hale. "You will not use her." Victor Hale's fear lasted less than a second. Then he buried it under a smile. Not the polite one from before. Not the public servant's mask. This smile was thinner, uglier, and far more honest. "You're bleeding through your bandage, Luca," Hale said quietly. "Maybe sit down before you embarrass yourself." The hallway held its breath. Elena felt Luca's wrist beneath her fingers. Hot skin, hard tendon. A pulse too steady for a man who had nearly died hours ago. He did not look at his wound. He looked at Hale as if calculating how much of the hospital would have to be cleaned afterward. "Boss," Marco warned under his breath. Luca ignored him. Elena did not. She stepped closer, lowering her voice so only he could hear. "Not here." His gaze cut to her. That was the terrible thing about Luca Moretti's attention. When he gave it to her, the rest of the world seemed to disappear against its will. "He threatened your brother," Luca said. "I know. He used your mother's name." Her throat tightened. "I know." "Then move." The command should have frightened her. Instead, it broke something open. For years, Elena had moved for everyone. Moved aside for angry patients. Moved around doctors who treated her like furniture. Moved quietly through debt, grief, exhaustion, and fear. Because the world had taught her that women like her survived by making themselves smaller. But she was done moving. "No," she said. The word was not loud. It did not need to be. Luca stared at her. A faint muscle jumped in his jaw. Behind them, Hale laughed softly. "She's smarter than you, Luca." Elena turned on him. "And you're not as untouchable as you think." Hale's smile froze. For the first time, he looked at her like she was more than leverage. Elena held his stare even as her hands shook. "You sent that message," she said. "You sent someone to photograph my brother." Hale tilted his head. "That's a serious accusation. So is threatening a civilian through a debt collector? You have proof?" Luca's voice slid in coldly. "She has me." Hale's eyes flicked toward him. "And what are you now? Evidence?" "No," Luca said. "Consequence." One of the uniformed officers swallowed hard. Elena looked at them. Both men avoided her eyes. That told her everything. This was not one corrupt man. This was a system that knew when to look away. Her phone buzzed again in Luca's hand. Another message. This time, Luca did not hide the screen. A video loaded. Noah. Elena's brother sat on a bench outside campus, unaware, laughing with another student. The camera zoomed slowly toward him. Then the clip ended. A text followed. "She has 1 hour." Elena's knees nearly gave out. Luca caught her before anyone else could move. One hand at her waist. Firm. Protective. Dangerously intimate. For 1 second, she allowed it because she could not breathe. Then she pushed back. "I'm fine." "You're not." I said I'm fine. His hand stayed there another heartbeat, as if every instinct in him rebelled against letting go. Then he released her. Hale watched them both with sharp interest. "Touching," he murmured. "Really? I almost believe you care." Luca's expression went dead. "You should stop speaking. You should stop pretending this is about her." Elena's breath caught. Luca went still. Hale stepped closer, lowering his voice. But the hallway was so silent everyone heard him. "This isn't romance. This isn't protection. This is guilt wearing a new face." Elena looked at Luca. "What does that mean?" Luca said nothing. Hale's eyes shone. "He really hasn't told you." Marco moved forward. "Enough." Hale ignored him. 12 years ago, your mother found Luca Moretti bleeding in an alley behind St. Mercy. Back then he wasn't the king of Chicago. He was a 23-year-old enforcer with enemies on every corner and a price on his head. Elena's heartbeat slowed into something heavy and painful. Luca did not move. His silence confirmed every word. Grace Carter took him inside. Hale continued. No paperwork, no police report, no questions. She treated his wounds in secret because she believed every life was worth saving. Elena saw her mother suddenly, younger, tired, skinned, standing under hospital lights with blood on her hands, just as Elena had stood last night. The thought hurt so badly she almost stepped back. She never told me, Elena whispered. No, Hale said, because she learned what saving a Moretti costs. Luca's voice was quiet. Don't. Hale smiled. There it is. Elena turned toward Luca. What happened? He looked at her then, and for the first time, the most dangerous man in Chicago looked trapped. Not by police, not by guns, by memory. Elena, he said, softer than before. Her name sounded like an apology. That scared her more than his violence. What happened to my mother? The hallway seemed to tilt. Rain tapped faintly against the hospital windows. Monitors beeped from distant rooms. Somewhere a patient coughed. Ordinary sounds continuing around something that was about to ruin her. Hale answered when Luca would not. Your mother testified against the wrong men. Elena's blood chilled. No. She helped identify 3 men involved in an illegal organ ring operating through St. Mercy's old surgical wing. Elena shook her head once. No. My mother died of complications from pneumonia. Hale's expression turned almost tender. It made her sick. That's what the report said. The air left her lungs. Luca's eyes closed briefly. A crack. A real one. Then he opened them, and whatever pain had shown was buried under black ice. Elena stared at him. You knew? Luca did not answer fast enough. That was answer enough. Her voice broke. You knew my mother didn't just die? I found out too late. Too late for what? To save her. The words landed between them with devastating simplicity. Elena felt something inside her tear open. All those nights beside her mother's hospital bed. All those doctors using careful voices. All those forms. All those condolences. All the grief she had folded neatly into survival because there had been no one to blame except sickness and God. Ali. It had all been a lie. Hale sighed theatrically. He leaves out the best part. Luca's head turned. The look he gave Hale should have killed him. But Hale had already decided to cut deeper. Grace Carter saved Luca. Then Luca disappeared for 2 weeks while his enemies hunted for the nurse who helped him. By the time he came back with enough men to protect her, the damage was done. Elena felt her throat tighten until she could barely speak. What damage? Luca stepped toward her. Elena. What damage? No one answered. She looked at Marco. His eyes lowered. That was when she understood. Her mother's illness. The sudden weakness. The coughing fits that never made sense. The bruises Elena had been told came from falling. The fear her mother had tried to hide whenever someone knocked at the door. Elena's voice became very small. They hurt her. Luca's silence was unbearable. Hale's smile faded into cold satisfaction. They poisoned her slowly. Not enough to make it obvious. Enough to make her fragile. Enough to make her death look natural.
It hurts.
Elena covered her mouth. For a moment,
hold on to me.
She was not in the hospital.
They're coming for us.
She was 19 again,
Not while I'm here.
standing
Fight.
in a tiny apartment kitchen while her mother tried to pretend she was not trembling too badly to hold a mug. Sweetheart, don't look so scared. I'm just tired. Just tired. Just tired. A sob rose in Elena's throat, but she swallowed it violently. Not here. Not in front of them. Not in front of him. She looked at Luca. His face was carved with control, but his eyes were different. Haunted, guilty, furious. You should have told me, she whispered. I tried to keep you away from it. You let me bury her believing she just got sick. His jaw tightened. I was 23 and hunted. By the time I knew who had ordered it, your mother was gone, and you were grieving. I thought leaving you untouched was mercy. Elena laughed once, broken and disbelieving. Mercy? Elena. You watched my life collapse from a distance? His silence was another wound. She stepped back from him. This time, he let her, but it looked like it cost him. Hale seized the moment. Now you see why this is dangerous. Luca doesn't protect people. He turns them into graves with names. Luca moved so fast, the officers reached for their weapons too late. 1 second he was beside Elena. The next, his hand was around Hale's throat, slamming him against the wall hard enough to rattle the framed hospital policy sign. Chaos erupted. Marco blocked the officers before they could draw. Nurses screamed. Dr. Haynes shouted Luca's name, but Luca did not look away from Hale. Blood spread dark beneath his hospital gown. His stitches had torn. He did not seem to feel it. "Who sent Trevor?" Luca asked. Hale choked, clawing at his wrist. Luca tightened his grip. "Say the name." Hale's face reddened. Elena should have been horrified. She was, but beneath the horror was a darker, uglier truth. Part of her wanted the answer more than she wanted him to stop. "Luca," she said. His grip did not loosen. "Say it." Hale rasped something. Luca leaned closer. "What?" Hale's eyes flicked to Elena. Then he smiled through the pain. "Ask him about the ring." Luca froze. Hale coughed. "Ask him why Grace really saved him." Elena's heart pounded. Luca released him suddenly, as if Hale's skin had burned him. Hale slid down the wall, gasping. The hallway fell into stunned silence. Elena looked at Luca. "What ring?" Luca's face had gone pale, not from blood loss, from fear, real fear, the kind she never imagined he could feel. "Elena," he said, "we need to leave." "No." "Elena." "What ring?" Hale coughed a laugh from the floor. "Your mother didn't just save his life, Miss Carter." Luca turned, voice deadly. "Shut up." Hale looked directly at Elena. She hid something for him. Elena's hands went cold. "What?" Hale smiled. "A black diamond ring belonging to the Moretti family. Proof of succession. Proof of betrayal. Proof that Luca's own bloodline sold him to his enemies." The hospital seemed to disappear around her. Luca's voice was low behind her. "Enough." But Hale was not finished. "Your mother kept it safe. And before she died, she made sure it went somewhere no one would think to look." Elena could barely hear herself. "Where?" Hale's eyes glittered. "With you." Her breath stopped. Luca closed his eyes. "Just once. Ainsi la confirmation." Elena looked down at her hands, suddenly remembering the only piece of jewelry her mother had left her, a plain silver locket, the one Elena wore every day under her scrubs, the one currently resting against her chest. Slowly, with trembling fingers, she pulled the chain from beneath her collar. Luca's eyes locked onto it. So did Hale's. So did every dangerous man in the hallway. The locket felt heavier than it ever had before. Elena's voice came out broken. "My mother's necklace." Luca stepped closer, very carefully. "Elena, listen to me. Do not open it here." Hale smiled from the floor, blood at the corner of his mouth. Too late. From the stairwell at the end of the hall came the sound of boots. Many boots. Marco turned sharply. His hand went to his weapon. The elevator lights flickered. The hospital speakers crackled once, then died. Luca moved in front of Elena. This time, she did not tell him not to, because every exit was filling with men who were not police, not doctors and not Luca's guards, and all of them were looking at the locket in her hand. The first man came through the stairwell with a suppressor already raised. Luca moved before Elena could even scream, one arm locked around her waist. His body turned, shielding her completely as Marco fired 2 shots that cracked through the hallway like thunder trapped indoors. The man in the stairwell dropped backward into darkness. Another took his place. The hospital erupted. Nurses ran. Patients cried out. The 2 uniformed officers finally drew their guns, but they looked at everyone like they no longer knew which side of the law they were standing on. Victor Hale dragged himself away from the wall, one hand pressed to his throat. eyes bright with satisfaction as chaos swallowed the floor. Elena's locket burned in her palm, her mother's necklace, her mother's secret, her mother's death sentence. Luca shoved her behind him, tearing the IV from his arm with a sharp, brutal motion. Blood ran down his wrist. His hospital gown was soaked dark near the ribs where his stitches had opened. "You're bleeding," Elena
Stay with
gasped.
me, we're almost there.
"I've noticed.
It hurts.
You can barely
Don't let go.
stand."
I
Then
won't. Hold on to
don't
me.
distract
They're
me.
coming for us.
Another shot
Not
hit the
while I'm
wall
here.
inches
Fight.
from Marco's head. Plaster burst into the air. Elena flinched. Luca's hand found the back of her neck, firm and grounding, forcing her down behind a supply cart as his men returned fire. "Look at me," he said. Her eyes snapped to his. In the flashing emergency lights, wounded and pale, Luca Moretti looked less like a patient and more like the reason monsters believed in bedtime prayers. "Put the locket inside your scrub pocket," he ordered. Elena's fingers clenched around it. "No." His stare hardened. "Elena, it was my mother's, and if they see it in your hand, they will cut your hand off to take it." The words were so cold, so direct, that her breath stopped. Luca's expression did not change. He did not soften the truth for her. He did not dress horror in comfort. And somehow, that made her obey. With shaking fingers, she tucked the locket beneath the fabric of her scrub pocket and pressed her palm over it like she could protect the last piece of Grace Carter with skin and bone. Marco backed toward them, gun low, eyes sharp. "Boss, West stairwell is compromised. Elevator 2. How many?" "At least 12. Not Hale's men," Luca said. Marco's jaw flexed. "No. Moretti colors." Elena stared at him. "Moretti." Luca looked toward the far end of the hall. For the first time, something darker than rage crossed his face. Family. That was what Elena saw. Not love. Not warmth. Family as a curse. Family as a knife inherited at birth. Victor Hale laughed from near the nurse's station, coughing between breaths. "Told you," he rasped. "Bloodline problems." Luca did not look at him. "Take him," he said. Two of Luca's men grabbed Hale before the officers could react. One officer shouted, "Hey!" Marco turned his gun slightly, not pointing directly, just enough. The officer stopped. Elena watched the exchange with sick clarity. The police were afraid. The Mafia were organized, and she was standing between them with a secret necklace her mother had apparently hidden for 12 years. "This is insane," she whispered. Luca heard her. His gaze softened only by a fraction, but the fraction was devastating. Yes, not denial, not reassurance, just truth. Then he took her hand. The contact jolted through her. His palm was hot, blood-slick, strong despite the tremor of pain beneath his skin. He pulled her toward the service corridor, moving with lethal focus even as his body threatened to fail under him. Elena stumbled after him. "Where are we going?" "Away. This is a hospital. There are patients. My men will get them out. You don't control emergency evacuation. Tonight I do." She yanked against his grip. "You can't just decide that." Luca turned so suddenly she nearly collided with his chest. Gunfire cracked behind them. Marco shouted something in Italian. Alarms screamed overhead, but Luca's voice dropped into a low, dangerous calm. "Elena, listen to me very carefully. The men coming for you do not care about patients. They do not care about nurses. They do not care about laws, cameras, witnesses, or children in waiting rooms. They came for what is in your pocket. If you stay here arguing morality with me, they will kill innocent people to force you into the open." The words hit like a slap. Elena's anger faltered. Luca stepped closer. "I am not taking you because I own you. I am taking you because right now, every second you remain here turns this hospital into a battlefield." Her throat tightened. "That's not fair." "No." His eyes held hers. "It isn't. Something in his honesty hurt worse than manipulation would have. She looked back down the hallway. A nurse she knew was helping an elderly man into a side room. Dr. Haynes was barking instructions, finally useful, finally alive. Marco's men were forming a wall between the attackers and the civilians. This was her hospital, her patients, her life. And Luca was right. The violence had followed her now. The locket in her pocket felt like a stone against her thigh. Elena swallowed. "My brother, already being moved." Her head snapped back to him. "What? I sent men when the first photo came in. You sent men to my brother? To keep him alive. You had no right." "No," Luca said. "But I had time." She hated him for that. Hated that he had acted before asking. Hated that she was relieved. Hated that relief was a door opening inside her, and behind that door was dependence. And behind dependence was every dangerous thing she had spent her life avoiding. "Where is Noah?" she demanded. "Safe." "That's not an answer. It is the only one I can give while people are shooting at us." Another bullet shattered the glass panel of a medication cabinet. Elena ducked instinctively. Luca's arm came around her again, pulling her tight against his side. For one breath, her face pressed into his chest. She felt his heart beat. Hard. Fast. Then he pushed open a staff-only door and dragged her into the back corridor. The world changed. The gunfire became muffled. The lights were dimmer here, flickering over beige walls and storage carts. It smelled like disinfectant, old linen, and electrical smoke. Marco followed with 2 guards, hauling Victor Hale between them. Hale's face was pale now, but he still smiled when he saw Elena looking. "Kidnapping a deputy commissioner," he said. "That's ambitious." Luca kept walking. Hale laughed weakly. "She'll see it eventually, Luca. You don't rescue people. You collect them." Elena looked at Luca. His face revealed nothing. That made Hale's words land harder. They reached a freight elevator at the end of the corridor. One of Luca's men opened a control panel and rewired something with quick, practiced hands. Elena stared. "You planned this?" Luca said nothing. "You had an escape route in my hospital." "I have escape routes in every hospital." "That is not comforting. It isn't meant to be." The elevator doors groaned open. Inside stood another man in a black suit, older than the others, silver at the temples, holding a folded coat. "Boss," he said, eyes flicking over Luca's blood-soaked gown. "You look like hell." "Good to see you too, Sal." The older man's gaze moved to Elena. Not dismissive, not predatory, assessing. Then, surprisingly, respectful. "Miss Carter." Elena stiffened. "Does everyone know my name?" Sal's expression softened with something almost like pity. "Tonight?" "Yes." The elevator doors closed. The small space tightened around them. Luca stood between Elena and Hale. Marco kept his weapon trained on the deputy commissioner. The older man, Sal, handed Luca the black coat, but Luca did not put it on. His hand had gone to his ribs. Blood seeped between his fingers. Elena's nurse instincts overpowered everything else. "Sit down." Luca glanced at her. "No, your stitches are open. I know. You're losing blood. I've lost more. I don't care how dramatic your pain tolerance is. Sit down before you pass out." Marco looked away as if hiding a smile. Luca stared at her. For 1 second, Elena thought he would ignore her. Then, very slowly, he lowered himself onto the elevator's emergency bench. The older man's eyebrows rose. Marco looked openly impressed. Hale laughed under his breath. "Oh, she's going to ruin you." Luca's eyes lifted to Hale. "You won't live long enough to enjoy it." The elevator descended. Elena knelt before Luca before she could think better of it. His blood had soaked through the bandage. Her hands moved automatically, pressing firm against the wound. He hissed through his teeth. "Good," she said. "You still feel pain." His mouth curved faintly. disappointed, deeply. Their eyes met. The air shifted. It should not have happened there. Not in an elevator, dropping through a hospital under attack. Not with blood under her nails, and a corrupt deputy commissioner held at gunpoint 3 feet away.
Not while I'm here,
but
fight!
Something passed between them anyway. Dangerous, unwanted, alive. Luca's voice lowered. "You're shaking." Elena pressed harder on the wound. "You're bleeding. You're deflecting. You're annoying." His faint smile became almost real. Almost. Then the elevator jolted. The lights cut out. For half a second, darkness swallowed them. Elena felt Luca's hand close over her wrist. Not gripping, finding. Then the emergency bulb flickered on. The elevator had stopped. Marco cursed. They cut power to the freight line. A sound came from above. Metal scraping. Someone forcing the hatch. Sal looked up. "They're on top." Luca stood immediately. Elena pushed him back. "No, Elena. You stand up again and I'll sedate you myself. This is a terrible time for medical authority. It's the only authority you seem to obey." Sal coughed once, suspiciously like a laugh. Marco raised his gun toward the ceiling hatch. The metal panel groaned. Elena's heart raced. Luca reached beneath the bench and pulled out a handgun taped underneath. She stared at him. "You have a gun in the hospital elevator?" He checked the chamber with one hand. "I told you. Every hospital." The hatch burst open. Marco fired first. The attacker above jerked back. But another hand dropped something small and black through the opening. Elena saw it hit the floor. A gas canister. Luca moved instantly. He kicked it toward the corner and pulled Elena against him, covering her face with his coat as smoke hissed into the elevator. Her lungs burned anyway. Marco fired upward. Sal smashed the emergency stop override with the butt of his gun. The elevator lurched again, dropping hard. Elena's stomach rose into her throat. Hale shouted as he slammed into the wall. Luca held Elena through the fall, one arm locked around her head, his body absorbing the impact when the elevator crashed to a halt 2 floors down. For a second, no one moved. Then Luca's breath hitched. Elena pulled back. His face had gone gray. "Luca, I'm fine." "You are not fine." His eyes sharpened. "Locket." Elena touched her pocket. Still there. His shoulders eased by a fraction. Not because he was safe, because she had not lost it. The realization struck her with sudden force. He cared more about the secret than his own life. Or maybe he cared about what the secret meant for her. The elevator doors were forced open from the outside. Cold air rushed in. They were in the underground ambulance bay. Black SUVs waited with engines running, headlights cutting through steam and rain. Men in suits stood with weapons hidden but ready. The city above them thundered with storm and sirens. Luca stepped out first, almost collapsing before catching himself. Elena grabbed his arm. This time, he did not pull away. Sal opened the back door of the nearest SUV. "In," Luca said. Elena looked at the vehicle, then at the hospital corridor behind her. Once she entered that car, there would be no pretending. No going back to being just Elena Carter, night shift nurse, debt-buried daughter, exhausted sister, invisible woman. If she got in, she crossed into Luca's world. Men with guns, family secrets, murder disguised as illness, a ring hidden inside her mother's locket, a war that had apparently started long before she was old enough to understand grief. "I need answers," she said. Luca stood beside the open door, rain misting through the ambulance bay entrance behind him. "And you'll get them. Not later. Not after you decide what I'm allowed to know. Now." Marco glanced toward the ramp. "Boss, we need to move." Luca ignored him. Elena stepped closer. "You knew about my mother. You knew about the locket. You knew my name. You sent men to my brother. You had escape routes ready. And now you expect me to climb into your car because you say I'm in danger." His gaze darkened. You are in danger. Then stop treating me like a child and tell me why. For a long moment, only the rain answered. Then Luca reached toward her. Elena stiffened, but he did not touch her face. His fingers went to the chain at her neck, carefully lifting the locket from her scrub pocket. He held it between them. The silver looked ordinary, tiny, harmless. Then he pressed one edge with his thumbnail. A hidden seam opened. Elena's breath caught. Inside the locket was not a photograph. It was a black stone set into a ring so dark it seemed to drink the light around it. A black diamond, small enough to hide, beautiful enough to start wars. Luca's voice changed. Lower, heavier. That ring belonged to the first Moretti who came to America. In my family, whoever holds it can challenge the head of the bloodline. Elena stared at the ring. Why would my mother have this? Because I gave it to her before I went back to kill my uncle. Her eyes lifted to his. Your uncle? Antonio Moretti. The man who sold me to Hale's network. The man who ordered your mother punished for helping me. The name slipped through the air like poison. Elena felt the ground tilt beneath her. You said you found out too late. I found out who poisoned her too late, Luca said. But I knew Antonio had betrayed me. I gave Grace the ring because she was the only person no one would suspect. A nurse. A widow. A woman who still believed saving a life meant something. His expression tightened. I came back for it after Antonio died.
It hurts.
She refused to give it to me.
I won't.
Elena,
Hold on
still.
to me.
My
They're
mother
coming
refused
for
you?
us.
A
Not
faint,
while I'm here.
broken
Fight.
smile touched his mouth. She said I was too angry to wear power without becoming worse than the men I wanted dead. That sounded like Grace. So much like her that Elena's eyes burned. Luca looked at the locket, but his voice seemed to come from somewhere far behind his ribs. She told me the ring would stay hidden until I learned the difference between revenge and protection. Elena swallowed hard. And did you? His eyes rose to hers. The answer lived there before he said it. No. A shiver moved through her. Honest again. Always honest at the worst possible moments. Luca closed the locket and placed it back in her hand. That is why everyone wants you now. My family believes the ring gives legitimacy. Hale wants it because it proves his office helped my uncle traffic bodies through St. Mercy. My enemies want it because if they put it on the right finger, they can unite the families against me. Elena's fingers closed around the locket. And what do you want? The question cut through the garage. Marco looked away. Sal looked at Luca. Even Hale, bloodied and held between two guards, stopped smiling. Luca did not answer immediately. Then he stepped closer. The rainlight turned his face silver and shadowed. His eyes stayed on hers with a focus so intense it felt like being touched. At first, he said, the ring. Elena's chest tightened. And now? His gaze dropped briefly to her mouth, then back to her eyes. Now I want to keep Grace Carter's daughter alive long enough to hate me properly. The words were not romantic. They were worse. They were real. Elena hated that they reached her. She hated that his guilt had edges. She hated that, beneath all the dominance and blood, there was a wound her mother had left in him. The sound of engines roared from the ramp. Marco turned sharply. Incoming. Headlights flashed at the entrance of the ambulance bay. Not one vehicle. Four. Black sedans descended fast into the underground level. Men leaned from windows. Weapons raised. Sal shoved Hale into another SUV. Marco shouted orders. Luca grabbed Elena and pushed her into the back seat, climbing in after her despite her protest. The door slammed. Bullets struck the windshield. The driver hit the gas. The SUV surged forward, smashing through a side barrier into the rain. Elena was thrown against Luca's chest. His arm came around her automatically, locking her in place as the convoy exploded out of the hospital garage and into the storm-soaked streets of Chicago. Behind them, St. Mercy disappeared in red lights and smoke. In front of them, the city opened like a mouth. Elena twisted toward Luca. Where are you taking me? He looked out the window at the headlights chasing them, then back at her. My house? No. My fortress, then? That does not make it better. His mouth curved faintly, despite the blood draining from his face. It will, when they start shooting again. As if summoned by his words, the rear window shattered. Elena screamed. Luca pulled her down beneath him as glass sprayed across the leather seats. His body covered hers completely, heavy and warm and bleeding, one hand cradling the back of her head. The SUV swerved hard. Marco fired from the front passenger window. Elena could hear Luca breathing above her, ragged, too ragged. "You're going to pass out," she said, panic breaking through. "Not before we arrive. You don't get to decide that. I decide many things. Your blood pressure disagrees." His eyes flicked down to hers. Even in the chaos, even with death chasing them through the rain, something intimate sparked in the small space between their faces. "You're angry because you're scared," he murmured. "I'm angry because you're impossible." That too. Another impact slammed into the rear of the SUV. The vehicle fishtailed across wet pavement. Elena grabbed Luca's shirt, feeling warm blood soak her fingers. "Luca." His gaze sharpened at the fear in her voice. Not fear for herself. For him. He saw it. She knew he saw it. And the moment changed him. His expression went dangerously still, but not with rage this time. With wonder, as if no one had feared losing him in a very long time. Then the SUV burst through iron gates. They crossed into a private estate, Everton behind stone walls and black trees, the city falling away behind them. Armed men lined the driveway under the rain. Floodlights snapped on, bright and merciless. The pursuing sedans braked hard outside the gates as steel barriers rose from the ground. The SUV stopped before a massive mansion of dark stone and glass. Not a home, a kingdom built for siege. Elena stared through the broken window. "What is this place?" Luca's voice was barely above a whisper. "The place no one can reach you." Then his eyes rolled back. His body collapsed against her. For one terrifying second, Elena forgot the mansion, the guns, the ring, the war. She forgot all of it. She caught his face between her hands. "Luca?" No response. The doors flew open. Men shouted. Rain poured in. Elena pressed her hand against his bleeding ribs and looked at the armed strangers surrounding them. "I need a medical room now," she shouted. No one moved fast enough. So Elena Carter, dragged into the heart of the Moretti Empire, with her mother's secret around her neck, lifted her blood-covered hand and gave her first order inside the house of the most dangerous man in Chicago. And every Mafia soldier obeyed. The Moretti mansion did not have a medical room. It had a surgical suite. Elena realized that the moment the double steel doors opened beneath the east wing and cold white light spilled across polished black floors. For one stunned second, she stood frozen with Luca's blood on her hands. The room beyond looked cleaner than St. Mercy's trauma bay, newer than any hospital equipment she had ever begged administration to replace, and built with the quiet arrogance of people who expected violence often enough to install oxygen lines inside their own house. Stainless steel cabinets lined one wall. Monitors glowed blue. A surgical table waited beneath bright lamps. There were drawers labeled in careful black print, sealed trauma kits stacked by type, refrigerated blood storage, locked medication cabinets, and an anesthesia cart that looked like it had never seen a budget cut in its life. Elena looked at Sal. "What kind of house is this?" Sal's eyes moved to Luca, unconscious in the arms of two guards. "The kind that survives." That answer made something cold settle inside her, but there was no time to think about it. Luca's head had fallen sideways. His wet black hair clung to his forehead. His skin had gone grey beneath the warm gold of the hallway lights, and blood had soaked through the improvised pressure dressing she had kept pressed to his ribs during the drive. For a man who acted immortal, he was terrifyingly human beneath her hands. "On the table," Elena ordered. The guards carried him in. Too many men followed. Elena turned at the doorway. Out. No one moved. She was still wearing borrowed scrubs. Her hair had half fallen from its tie. There was blood on her cheek, rain on her neck, and a black diamond ring hidden in the locket beneath her shirt. The men stared at her, like they were unsure whether she was a guest, prisoner, liability, or command they had not yet been trained to obey. Elena pointed to Luca. He is actively bleeding. I need space, sterile access, and people who can follow instructions without trying to look intimidating. If you're not medically useful, get out. Silence. Then Sal gave one small nod. The room emptied so quickly it was almost absurd. Only Sal, Marco, and a woman Elena had not seen before remained. The woman was in her early 40s, sharp-eyed, dark-haired, dressed in a black blouse and trousers, her posture elegant enough to feel dangerous without effort. She was already washing her hands at the sink. "I'm Dr. Valentina Russo," she said, "trauma surgeon. I handle Moretti emergencies." Elena stared at her. "You live here?" Valentina gave her a dry look. Not by choice. That was not comforting either. Luca groaned on the table. Elena moved instantly. The next 30 minutes became blood, pressure, light, and command. Valentina reopened torn sutures while Elena assisted, suctioned blood, passed instruments, checked vitals, and argued when Luca's pressure dipped too low. Sal disappeared and returned with blood units. Marco stood near the door, like a statue, trying not to become a storm. At some point, Elena forgot she was in a Mafia mansion. She forgot the men outside. Forgot Hale locked somewhere inside the estate. Forgot the ring. Forgot the war. All that existed was the body beneath her hands and the impossible urge to keep him alive. Again. "You're good," Valentina said, without looking up. Elena clamped a line. "I know." A faint smile touched the surgeon's mouth. Modest too. He responds poorly to overconfidence.
"Stay with me,
"I'm
we're
balancing
almost there."
the room.
It hurts.
Valentina's
Don't
smile
let go.
vanished.
I
As
won't.
Luca's
Hold
heart
on to me.
rhythm stuttered,
They're coming
Elena
for
leaned
us.
closer.
Not while I'm
Luca.
here, fight!
No response. She hated the panic that rose too fast. She pressed 2 fingers to his neck. Strong pulse. Too fast. Still there. "Don't you dare," she whispered. His eyelids fluttered. Valentina glanced at her. Interesting, that look said. Elena ignored it. She had become very good at ignoring things that scared her. Finally, the bleeding slowed. The torn stitches were repaired. A fresh bandage wrapped his ribs and shoulder. Luca remained unconscious, but stable, alive. Elena stepped back from the table, only when her knees threatened to betray her. Her hands trembled as she pulled off bloodied gloves. Valentina watched her carefully. "He'll live," she said. Elena nodded. She wanted to feel relief. Instead, she felt furious. At him, at herself, at her mother, at every secret that had sat quietly beneath her life while she worked, double shifts and paid bills built from lies. Sal offered her a clean towel. Elena took it without speaking. Then she looked at Luca. Under the surgical light, stripped of black suits and command, he looked almost younger. Not harmless. Never harmless. But wounded in a way no amount of power could disguise. A scar crossed his lower abdomen. Another marked his left shoulder. Older wounds. Older was. Her mother had once seen him this way. Bleeding. Hunted. Too young to be as dangerous as he already was. Grace Carter had saved him, and it had killed her. Elena's chest tightened. She turned away before anyone could read her face. "Where is my brother?" Sal's expression shifted. "He's safe." "I want to see him." "Not yet." The answer came from Marco. Elena faced him slowly. "Excuse me?" Marco's jaw tightened. "We moved him to a secure location, but bringing him here now would expose the route. My brother is 19 years old. He has no idea why armed strangers just grabbed him." "They didn't grab him," Marco said. "They approached him. Explained enough." Elena laughed once, sharp and humorless. "Explained enough?" What did they say? Hi, your sister is hiding in a Mafia fortress because your dead mother secretly kept a black diamond that corrupt officials and crime families want. Marco looked at Sal. Sal looked tired. Elena, he said gently. Noah is scared but unharmed. I need to hear his voice. You will. No. No one answered. Elena understood then. The house obeyed Luca. Not her. Not really. Not when it mattered. Her temporary authority had lasted only as long as his blood was on the floor. The realization steadied her anger into something sharper. She wiped Luca's blood from her hands, walked to the surgical doors, and opened them. The hallway outside was full of men. They all turned. Elena lifted her chin. I want a phone. No one moved. Her voice went colder. No. One of them looked toward Marco. That was their mistake. Elena stepped closer. I didn't ask him. I asked you. The man blinked. Then from behind the cluster of guards, a calm female voice said, Give her the phone. The men parted. A woman stood at the end of the corridor. Tall. Beautiful. Severe. Late 50s, maybe. Silver black hair twisted into a low knot. Black silk blouse. Diamond earrings. The kind of face that had never needed to raise its voice, because everyone had learned the cost of not listening. Elena knew before anyone introduced her. Blood recognized blood differently in dangerous houses. The woman looked like Luca's eyes would look in 30 years if mercy never found them. Sal straightened slightly. Donna Moretti, Luca's mother. The woman walked toward Elena with smooth, quiet steps. Her gaze moved over Elena's blood-stained scrubs, the towel in her hand, the chain disappearing beneath her collar. Then she smiled. It was not warm. Grace Carter's daughter. Elena's fingers tightened around the towel. You knew my mother. Everyone important did. I'm starting to hate that sentence. A flicker of amusement touched Donna Moretti's face. You have her spine, and you have my brother's location. The hallway went still. Donna looked at the men nearby. Leave us. They obeyed. Sal hesitated. Donna's eyes moved to him. He left too. Only Marco remained, standing near the surgical doors with the stubbornness of a man who would rather offend a queen than abandon his king. Donna allowed it. Her gaze returned to Elena. Noah is safe. You may speak to him after Luca wakes. No? Donna's expression cooled. No? Elena stepped closer. My brother is not one of your assets. He is not a bargaining chip. He is not part of whatever bloodline nightmare your family created. I want to hear his voice now. Donna studied her. Then she said softly, This is why Grace hid the ring with you. Elena went still. You knew. Donna's eyes lowered briefly to the locket. I knew someone had it. I suspected Grace. She was the only honest person Luca ever trusted. Elena felt the old grief twist. My mother paid for that trust. Donna's face did not change, but something moved behind her eyes. Yes, the simple agreement was worse than denial. Elena's voice shook. Did you know they poisoned her? Donna looked toward the surgical doors. No. Luca says he found out too late. He did. And I'm supposed to believe that? Donna turned back to her.
Stay with
you can
me,
believe whatever keeps you standing.
It hurts.
Elena hated
Don't let
her
go.
instantly.
I won't.
Not because
Hold
she
on
was
to me.
cruel.
They're
Because she
coming
sounded
for
like
us.
someone who had
Not while I'm
survived
here.
enough to
Fight.
stop offering comfort. Donna continued. But understand this. My son has lied many times in his life. To enemies, to allies, to me, to himself most of all. But when it comes to Grace Carter, he does not lie. Elena's throat tightened. Why? For the first time, Donna Moretti's face softened, just slightly. Because your mother was the first person who looked at him after he became a killer and still saw a boy worth saving. The words struck harder than Elena wanted them to. Behind the surgical doors, a monitor beeped steadily. Alive. Again because of Grace. Again because of Elena. She looked away. I don't want to be part of this. Donna's voice was quiet. You already are. No, I was dragged into this. Yes. Elena looked back, surprised by the admission. Donna stepped closer. The world is not fair to good women, Miss Carter. It uses their kindness as an entrance wound. Grace learned that. I learned that. You are learning it now. Elena's eyes burned. My mother was not weak. I did not say she was. Kindness is not weakness. Donna's gaze hardened. But kindness without power is an invitation for monsters. Elena said nothing. Donna reached into her pocket and took out a slim phone. She handed it to Elena. Noah is on a secure line. 2 minutes. Elena grabbed it before pride could stop her. The call connected on the first ring. Elena? Noah's voice shattered her. Young. Scared. Trying not to sound scared. Noah. She breathed. What the hell is happening? These guys came to campus and said you were in danger. They knew my name. They knew your name. They put me in some house with guards and told me not to look out the windows. Elena closed her eyes. I'm so sorry. Are you okay? She looked down at her blood-stained scrubs. Yes. Elena. She almost smiled despite everything. He knew when she lied. I'm alive, she said. That's not the same thing. No, it wasn't. Her voice cracked. Listen to me. I need you to stay where you are. Do what they say for now. Who are they? She opened her eyes. Donna Moretti watched her. Marco watched the surgical doors. The mansion breathed around them like an animal. I don't know yet, Elena whispered. Elena, I'm scared. The words broke through every wall she had built. I know, baby. I'm not a baby. You're my baby. A shaky laugh came through the line, then silence. Elena, yeah? Is this about Mom? Her heart stopped. She gripped the phone tighter. Why would you ask that? Noah's breathing changed. Because the man who brought me here said Grace Carter's children were under Moretti protection now. Elena looked at Donna. Donna did not look away. Noah continued. Lower now. And because one of them had Mom's bracelet, Elena's blood went cold. What bracelet? The gold one, with the little blue stone. The one she wore in photos before she got sick. Elena could barely speak. Who had it? I don't know. Older guy. Scar near his eye. He said it was proof I could trust him. Elena covered the phone. She looked at Donna. Who has my mother's bracelet? Donna's expression changed. Not much. Enough. Marco stepped forward. What bracelet? Elena's voice became thin. My brother says one of Luca's men had my mother's bracelet. Marco's face darkened. That's impossible. Donna turned sharply toward him. Where is Noah being held? Marco pulled out his phone immediately. Elena brought the phone back to her ear. Noah, listen to me. Move away from whoever has that bracelet. Elena. Now. A muffled sound came through the line. Noah said, Wait, someone's coming. Elena's heart slammed against her ribs. Noah? Footsteps. A distant male voice. Then Noah, frightened now. Elena. They said Luca is dead. Her blood froze. Noah. Run. The line filled with a sharp crack. Not a gunshot. A phone hitting the floor. Then silence. Elena screamed his name. The call disconnected. For 1 second, no one moved. Then Marco exploded into motion, shouting orders into his phone. Donna's face went white with fury. Elena stood frozen. The phone still pressed to her ear, listening to nothing. Her brother, her baby brother, the last family she had left, taken by men, using her mother's bracelet. The world narrowed to a single unbearable point. Then the surgical doors opened behind her. Luca stood there, barefoot, bare-chested beneath fresh bandages, pale as death, eyes black as hell. Valentina appeared behind him, furious. I told you not to move. He ignored her. His gaze found Elena first. Always Elena. Then the phone in her hand. Then his mother's face. Then Marco's. What happened? Elena turned toward him slowly. For the first time since meeting him, She did not see the man who protected her. She saw the source of every danger closing around her life. Her voice came out, deadly quiet. They took Noah. The temperature in the hallway seemed to drop. Luca did not blink. Who? One of your men? No, you don't know that. I know my men. Elena crossed the distance between them so fast, Marco reached out instinctively, then stopped himself. She stood in front of Luca, shaking with a rage so large it had nowhere to go. My mother's bracelet, Luca. They had my mother's bracelet. Something in his face changed. Not confusion. Recognition. That was worse. Elena saw it. So did Donna. Luca's mother whispered, Antonio. Elena looked between them. Antonio is dead. Luca's jaw tightened. He is. Then why does your mother sound like she saw a ghost? Donna's face had become stone. Because Antonio had a son. The hallway fell silent. Luca's eyes closed briefly. Elena felt the truth before anyone said it. A bigger secret. A deeper betrayal. Another grave opening under her feet. Donna looked at Luca. You never told her. Luca's voice was low. I didn't know if he was alive. Elena stared at him. Who? Luca opened his eyes. There was guilt there, and something like dread. My cousin, he said. Dante Moretti. The name meant nothing to Elena, but every man in the hallway reacted. Marco cursed under his breath. Sal appeared at the end of the corridor, face grim. Donna made the sign of the cross. Elena's stomach dropped. What does he want with Noah? Luca looked at the locket against her chest. The ring. No. He came for my brother. To trade for it. Elena slapped him. The sound cracked through the hallway. No one breathed. Luca's face turned slightly from the force. He did not touch his cheek. He did not get angry. He slowly looked back at her. The red mark bloomed across his skin. Elena's eyes filled. But her voice stayed sharp. This is not about a ring. That is my brother. I know. No, you don't. You think in wars and bloodlines and power. You think everything is a move on a board. But Noah is 19. He still sleeps with headphones on because silence makes him anxious. He still buys cheap cereal because it reminds him of Mom. He is not part of your family curse. Luca absorbed every word. Each one seemed to cut. Good. She wanted him cut. She wanted him bleeding somewhere bullets could not touch. I will get him back, Luca said. Elena laughed through tears. You keep saying things like they become true because you say them. In my world, they usually do. Then your world is broken. Yes, he said. Again, the honesty. Again, no defense. It infuriated her more. Donna stepped forward. Dante would not risk returning to Chicago unless he had support. Hale, Marco said. Luca shook his head. Hale is useful, not loyal. Dante has someone closer. Sal's face tightened. Inside,
Stay with me, we're almost
Luca's
there.
eyes moved across the corridor.
Don't let go.
Every guard
I won't.
looked
Hold on to
suddenly
me.
aware of his
They're
own
coming
heartbeat.
for us.
He knew
Not
the
while I'm
extraction
here,
route
fight.
for Noah, Luca said. He knew the secure house. He had Grace's bracelet. He had access to family storage. Donna whispered, No. Luca looked at her. Mother. Elena watched Donna Moretti's face collapse, not dramatically, not with tears, but with a quiet devastation so severe, it looked like age had struck her all at once. Who? Elena demanded. No one answered. Who betrayed us? Luca's gaze shifted past her, towards Sal. The older man went still. Elena turned. Sal's face had emptied. For a second, she thought Luca had accused him. Then she saw the pain in Sal's eyes was not guilt. It was grief. Luca said, Where is Isabella? Donna inhaled sharply. Marco's mouth tightened. Elena looked around, lost and furious. Who is Isabella? Luca did not look at her when he answered. My sister. The word changed the air. Sister. Elena had not known Luca had one. Of course she hadn't. She knew nothing, except fragments handed to her between gunfire and blood loss. Donna's voice shook for the first time. Isabella would never. Luca's expression did not move. She had access. She loved Grace. Elena's heart lurched. She knew my mother? Donna's eyes filled with something old. Grace hid her once. From who? No one answered. Elena looked at Luca. He looked like every secret was becoming a weapon in his hands, and he hated that he had to keep holding them. From Antonio, he said. Elena's mouth went dry. Why? Luca's voice dropped. Because Antonio wanted to marry Isabella to Hale's son to secure the network. She was 17. Elena felt sick. My mother helped her escape? Donna nodded slowly. For 3 days. Grace kept her in her apartment, fed her, lied for her, protected her. Elena's mind spun. Her mother had hidden a Mafia heir, saved a future Mafia boss, kept a black diamond ring, testified against an organ ring, and Elena had spent years believing Grace Carter had simply been a tired nurse who made soup when neighbors were sick. She had never known her mother at all. Lucas spoke quietly. Isabella disappeared 2 weeks ago. Marco looked at him sharply. You told me she was in Paris. That was the last confirmed location. Donna stared at her son. You lied to me? I was trying to find her before you knew she was missing. Donna's slap came faster than Elena expected. The second crack echoed just like the first. Luca accepted it the same way. No anger, no defense, just the stillness of a man used to being punished for truths revealed too late. Donna's voice was ice and grief. You arrogant boy. For one moment, Luca did not look like a Mafia boss. He looked like someone's son. Then the moment vanished. His phone rang. Everyone froze. Unknown number. Luca answered and put it on speaker. For a moment, there was only static. Then Noah's voice came through, strained and terrified. Elena? Elena lunged toward the phone. Noah, don't give them the ring, Noah said quickly. Don't. A sharp sound cut him off. Elena flinched like she had been struck. Then a new voice entered the line. Male. Smooth. Young. Amused. Family reunions are always emotional. Luca's face changed. Don't you? A soft laugh. Hello, cousin. Donna gripped the wall beside her. Dante continued. You sound tired. Dying twice in 1 week must be exhausting. Touch the boy, Luca said, and I will erase you. You always were dramatic. Elena stepped closer to the phone, voice shaking. Let my brother go. Silence. Then Dante's voice softened with interest. Elena Carter. The way he said her name made Luca's entire body go rigid. Dante laughed quietly. She sounds like Grace. Elena's throat closed. You don't get to say my mother's name. Oh, but I do. Grace Carter is the reason any of us are here. Saint, nurse, liar, thief. She was not a thief. She stole the ring from my family. She protected it. Same thing, sweetheart. Luca's voice cut through like a blade. Speak to her like that again. Dentisihil. There he is. The wounded king pretending this is love, when we both know it's guilt. Elena looked at Luca. He did not look away from the phone. Dante continued. Here are the terms. Bring the ring to St. Mercy's old surgical wing by midnight. Elena brings it alone. No, Luca said instantly. Dante laughed. I wasn't asking you. Elena's hand went to the locket. Luca saw. His eyes sharpened. Don't. Dante's voice became colder. If she doesn't come, Noah Carter loses a finger every 15 minutes after midnight. If you bring soldiers, he loses something worse. If you send police, Hale makes sure the official story is tragic and believable. Elena's vision blurred. Noah, she whispered. In the background, her brother made a muffled sound. Alive. Terrified. Dante spoke again, almost gently. Your mother should have stayed out of Moretti business, Elena. But since she didn't, you get to finish what she started. The line went dead. For 3 seconds, no one spoke. Then Luca turned to Marco. Lock down the estate. Find Isabella. Trace the call. Pull every map of St. Mercy's old surgical wing. I want Hale conscious
Stay with
in
me,
10
we're almost
minutes.
there.
Marco nodded and moved.
Don't let go.
Donna grabbed Luca's
I won't.
arm.
Hold on to me.
You are not
They're
sending
coming
Elena.
for us.
No.
Not while I'm
Luca
here.
said.
Fight.
Elena looked at him. I'm going. Every head turned. Luca's voice dropped. Absolutely not. He has my brother. He wants you. He wants the ring. He wants both. Elena stepped closer until there was barely any space between them. Then use me. Luca's eyes went black. No. You need bait. I need Noah alive. Stop pretending there's a clean version of this. His jaw tightened. You don't understand what men like Dante do to women they use as leverage. I understand what happens when powerful men decide my life without asking me. That hit. She saw it. Good. Luca's voice was rougher when he answered. I am trying to keep you alive, and I am trying to save the only family I have left. Silence fell between them. Not empty, charged with everything they could not say. Then Elena reached beneath her scrubs and pulled out the locket. The black diamond ring gleamed inside like a captured piece of night. Everyone stared. Elena looked at Luca. My mother hid this from men like you. His face hardened with pain. Yes, then maybe she didn't want it. Return to a man who still thinks protection means control. Luca flinched. Barely. But she saw it. Elena closed the locket. I'll go to St. Mercy. No, but not alone. Luca still. She stepped closer. You want to protect me? Then stop standing in front of me like I'm fragile. Stand beside me and tell me how to survive your world. For a long moment, Luca did not move. The mansion seemed to wait with him. Then slowly, he reached into the pocket of the coat Sal had brought and removed something small. A ring box. Not the one from her locket. This one was black velvet, worn at the edges. He opened it. Inside was an ordinary silver band. Simple. Old. Elena stared at it. What is that? Luca's voice was low. Grace gave it to me 12 years ago. Elena stopped breathing. My mother? She said if I ever became the kind of man who could protect without owning, I should give it back to her daughter. Elena's eyes filled before she could stop them. Luca looked at the ring as if it weighed more than any weapon he had ever held. I never thought I deserved to. His gaze lifted to hers. He still don't. The air between them changed. Not romantic. Not simple. Something sharper. A truth standing in blood. Elena whispered, Why didn't you tell me? Because every time I get close to the truth, someone you love is punished for it. Her anger cracked at the edges. Behind it was grief. Behind grief was fear. And beneath all of it was the terrible knowledge that her mother had not just left her a secret, she had left her a choice. Luca closed the box and placed it in Elena's hand. Whatever happens tonight, this belongs to you. Not because of me, because of her. Elena's fingers closed around the box. For the first time since the hospital, she felt Grace Carter in the room, not as a victim, as a woman who had made decisions no one had understood, a woman who had looked at dangerous people and chosen what kind of danger she could live with. Then, the lights across the mansion flickered. Once, twice. Every guard in the hallway went alert. Marco's voice shouted from somewhere down the corridor. Power grid breach. The security monitors on the wall flashed static. Then every screen changed. A live video appeared. Noah tied to a chair in a dark room. Beside him stood a woman with black hair, tear-streaked face, and a bruise along her cheek. Donna gasped. Isabella. Luca went completely still. Dante's voice filled the hallway through the speakers. I forgot one small detail, cousin. The camera shifted closer to Isabella. She looked directly into it, shaking. Then she whispered, Luca, I'm sorry. A hand entered the frame and lifted her chin. Dante stepped into view, smiling. She helped me take the boy. Elena looked at Luca. For the first time, his face showed real devastation. Dante's smile widened. Your sister chose me. The mansion did not erupt into noise. It went quiet. That was worse. Every guard in the corridor stopped breathing. Every hand moved closer to a weapon. Every screen glowed with the same impossible image. Noah Carter bound to a chair, Isabella Moretti standing beside him with tears on her face, and Dante Moretti smiling like he had just placed a knife under the heart of the house. Luca did not move. For one terrifying second, Elena thought the shock had hollowed him out. Then his face changed. Not into rage. Not yet. Into something so cold and ancient it made the air feel unbreathable. Donna Moretti gripped the wall, her knuckles white. No. On the screen, Isabella flinched, as if she had heard her mother through the camera. Dante leaned closer to the lens. Look at you all, he said, amused. A room full of killers finally learning what family feels like when it betrays you. Luca's voice was almost gentle. Isabella. His sister looked up. She was beautiful in the ruined way. Grief made beautiful people look haunted. Black hair tangled around her face, one eye swollen, lips split. Her hands trembled at her sides. I'm sorry, she whispered again. Donna stepped toward the monitor. Bella, what did he do to you? Dante's hand settled on Isabella's shoulder. She went rigid. Luca saw it. So did Elena. Whatever betrayal had happened, it was not clean. It was not simple. There was terror in the way Isabella held herself. Shame, too, and something else Elena recognized because she had spent years watching victims lie to survive. A woman choosing the least impossible version of hell. Take your hand off my sister, Luca said. Dante smiled wider. There's the king. Take it off. Dante removed his hand slowly, mockingly, then lifted both palms. Still giving orders from behind walls, cousin? Luca stepped toward the screen. Noah Carter is not part of this. No, Dante said. He is leverage. There's a difference. Elena felt the word hit her like a fist. Leverage. Not boy. Not brother. Not the kid who used to fall asleep with math books open on his chest, who pretended not to cry at their mother's funeral because he thought Elena needed him strong, who still texted her pictures of cheap cereal when it went on sale, because grief had made them both sentimental about stupid things. She moved toward the screen. Luca's hand shot out, catching her wrist. Not to stop her, to anchor her. Elena, he said under his breath. She did not look at him. Her eyes stayed on Noah. His face was bruised now. Not badly. Enough. Enough to make something inside her become very still. Noah, she said. His head jerked up at her voice. Elena, I'm here. His eyes filled instantly. He tried to hide it, and failed. I'm sorry, he said. I tried to run. Her heart broke so violently she almost could not speak. You did nothing wrong. I dropped the phone. I don't care about the phone. Dante sighed. Touching. Truly. Elena looked at him then. For the first time, she let him see all of her fear. Then she let him watch it turn into hatred. You want the ring, she said. I want what belongs to my bloodline. It belongs to no one. Dante's expression sharpened. There's Grace Carter's arrogance. Elena's voice went quiet. Say my mother's name again, and I'll make sure you choke on it. The corridor went silent. Dante blinked, then laughed. Luca looked at Elena like something inside him had just shifted permanently. Dante leaned closer to the camera, interest bright in his eyes. Now I see it. That's why Luca lost his mind over you. Not because you're pretty, not because you saved him, because Grace left behind a daughter with teeth. Luca stepped forward. Talk to me. I am talking to you. No. You're hiding behind her because you know if you speak only to me, you have nothing. Dante's smile faded slightly. There. A crack. Luca saw it too. His voice lowered. Cruel and precise. You were always second, weren't you? Antonio's son, but never Antonio's heir. Moretti blood, but not Moretti enough. Even now you need a nurse's necklace to make men kneel. Dante's jaw tightened. Behind him, Isabella's eyes flicked toward the camera. Not fear now. Warning. Elena caught it. So did Luca. Too late. Dante struck Noah across the face. Elena screamed. Luca lunged toward the screen like he could cross through glass and static with his bare hands. Marco grabbed his arm. Boss. Noah coughed, head hanging. Dante's smile returned. Keep provoking me. Elena's breath came fast. Luca's chest rose and fell like violence, trapped inside bone. Dante turned his attention back to Elena. Midnight. Old surgical wing. Bring the ring. Alone. Or the boy bleeds first, and your mother's little legacy ends in a basement. The screen cut to black. For 1 second, nobody moved. Then the mansion exploded. Marco shouted orders. Guards scattered. Phones rang. Screens flickered back to security feeds. Donna turned to Sal with a voice sharp enough to draw blood, demanding names, routes, cameras. Every loyal man still breathing. Valentina pushed through the chaos trying to force Luca back into the surgical suite, but Luca moved past her like the laws of the body no longer applied. Elena, he said. She was still staring at the black screen. Her hands felt empty. Too empty. The locket at her chest felt like a weight dragging her underwater. Elena. She turned. Luca stood in front of her, pale, bandaged, bleeding through again near the edge of fresh gauze. His face was controlled, but his eyes were not. His eyes were all war.
Stay with me, we're almost there.
I'm getting him back.
It hurts,
he said.
Don't let go.
She looked at him.
I won't.
No.
Hold on to me.
The corridor quieted around them again.
Not
Luca's
while I'm
expression
here. Fight.
hardened. No, you're not getting him back. We are. His jaw flexed. This is not a place for bravery. Good, because I'm not brave. She stepped closer. I am terrified. I am furious. And I am done being moved from one locked room to another while men explain my life to me after they ruin it. Elena. No. Her voice cracked through the hallway. No more secrets. No more protecting me by making choices behind my back. No more deciding I'm too fragile to hear the truth, and then acting surprised when the truth finds me with a gun pointed at someone I love. Donna watched her with unreadable eyes. Marco looked away first. Luca did not. Elena, he said quietly. Dante wants you in that building because he knows I will follow. He wants the ring, but more than that, he wants me emotional, uncontrolled, predictable. Then don't be. A flicker crossed his face. She stepped even closer. Teach me what he expects. Then do the opposite. Marco's eyes lifted. Sal appeared at the end of the hall, his expression grim but interested. Luca stared at Elena for a long moment. Then something dangerous and almost proud moved through his eyes. You think like your mother? Elena swallowed the pain those words brought. No, I think like her daughter. Luca nodded once. Then everything changed. Not the danger. That deepened. But the house shifted around Elena as if some invisible line had been crossed. Luca turned toward the men in the corridor, and when he spoke, his voice was no longer the voice of a wounded patient, no longer the voice of a man trying to control one woman's fear. It was the voice of a king calling his war home. Seal every exit out of the city. No planes, no private runways, no end quote, end quote, end quote, end quote, Gen quote, no private runways, no boats leaving the river without my eyes on them. Wake the judges who owe us. I want Hale's accounts frozen, his phones cloned, his mistress found, his son followed, and every officer on his payroll named before midnight. Marco nodded sharply, already moving. Luca looked to Sal. Call the families. Sal's eyebrows lifted. All of them? All. Donna inhaled. Luca. He looked at his mother. Dante wants legitimacy. I'll give him an audience. Sal's mouth tightened. Some of them will side with him. Then they can kneel beside him when it ends. A chill ran through Elena. This was not anger. This was orchestration. This was Luca, becoming the thing people whispered about. He turned to Valentina. "Keep my blood pressure high enough that I can stand for 3 hours." Valentina gave him an incredulous look. "That is not a medical plan. It is tonight. You need surgery, rest, and fluids. I need to reach midnight. You'll tear yourself open. Then stitch faster." Valentina cursed in Italian. Elena stepped forward. "I'll help." Luca's gaze snapped to her. "No." She stared at him. The whole room seemed to wait. He exhaled through his nose. A surrender. Almost invisible. "Fine," he said. "But you stay near me." I was planning to stay near my brother. His eyes softened for half a second, then hardened again. "Then we have the same destination." They moved into a war room Elena had not known houses could have. It sat beneath the mansion, behind biometric doors and stone corridors, windowless and cold. Screens covered one wall. Maps of Chicago, traffic cameras, hospital blueprints, phone traces, faces of men Elena did not know and wished she never had to. At the center of the room was a long black table. The old surgical wing of St. Mercy appeared on the largest screen. Abandoned 12 years ago after structural damage, Elena now understood that phrase probably meant bodies, bribes, and lies. Marco pointed to the blueprint. 3 underground access points. North Utility Tunnel, sealed after the renovation. West Ambulance Loading Dock, abandoned but reachable through the old service road. Main surgical entrance from the hospital basement, likely watched. "And patients above?" Elena asked. Sal answered. "The old wing is cut off from current operations. Fire doors and renovation walls separated from the active hospital. Mostly," Marco added. Elena looked at him sharply. "Mostly?" Marco's gaze flicked to Luca. Elena slapped her palm onto the table. "Do not do that. Do not look at him before answering me." Marco went still. Luca said nothing, so Marco answered. "There is one maintenance corridor that still connects to the active hospital, but it's alarmed and locked. Elena knows it," Luca said. She turned to him. He looked back, calm. "You worked storage there during the winter flood 2 years ago." Her skin prickled. "How do you know that?" "Security files." "You had my employment history." "Yes." Before she could explode, he continued. "After your mother died, I kept watch from a distance. Watching is not the same as helping." "I know." His answer disarmed her because it did not defend him. It simply accepted the wound. Elena looked away first. The room was too full of people for pain that personal. Marco continued. "Dante will expect us at the obvious entries. He'll expect Elena to come through the main old surgical doors. He'll expect Luca to follow. Then we use the maintenance corridor," Elena said. Sal shook his head. "If he has access to old hospital systems,
Stay with me, we're
he'll know
almost
when
there.
that lock opens.
It hurts.
Not
Don't let go.
if it was never
I
repaired
won't.
properly."
Hold on to me.
They all looked
They're
at her.
coming for us.
Elena pointed
Not
to
while
the
I'm here.
blueprint.
Fight.
The alarm panel near sterile storage had water damage. Maintenance kept saying it was fixed, but it shorted every time humidity got too high. If the storm is still hitting the east wall, that sensor may already be failing. Marco looked at Luca, then corrected himself and looked back at Elena. "We can test that." Luca's mouth curved faintly. Not amusement. Approval. Elena hated how much she noticed. For the next hour, they planned. Not perfectly, not safely. There was no safe path into a trap designed by a man holding her brother. But there were smarter ways to walk into hell. Elena would appear to approach the old surgical wing through the main basement corridor with the locket visible. Dante would see what he expected to see. Luca's men would create a false conflict outside the west access point, loud enough to draw Dante's guards. Meanwhile, Luca, Marco, and a smaller team would enter through the compromised maintenance corridor with Elena. She would not be alone. She would not be helpless. But she would still be bait. Every time someone used the word decoy, Luca's eyes went darker. "Finally," Elena said. "Stop looking like that." He stood at the far end of the table, while Valentina changed his bandage with unnecessary aggression. "Like what?" "Like you're imagining murdering the English language. I dislike the plan. You agreed to the plan. I dislike that too." Valentina pulled the gauze tight. "Luca," he said. "Good," Elena said. His gaze lifted to hers. "You enjoy my suffering. I enjoy consequences," Valentina muttered. "Then you're going to love tonight." Despite everything, a faint laugh escaped Elena. It surprised the room. It surprised her more. For one fragile second, the war room felt almost human. Then Donna entered. The room changed again. She carried a small wooden box in both hands. Her face looked older than before, grief carved into every elegant line. "Elena," she said. Luca straightened. "Mother." Donna ignored him and came directly to Elena. "I should have given this to you years ago." Elena stared at the box. "What is it?" Donna opened it. Inside lay a faded photograph. Grace Carter stood outside St. Mercy, younger than Elena remembered, smiling with tired eyes. Beside her stood a teenage girl with black hair and haunted beauty, Isabella. Between them was Noah, maybe 7 years old, grinning with missing teeth, holding a paper cup of hot chocolate. Elena's hand flew to her mouth. "I've never seen this. Grace made me promise not to contact you unless the past found you first." Donna's voice thinned. I thought silence was honoring her. Elena picked up the photograph with trembling fingers. Her mother's smile nearly destroyed her. On the back, in Grace's handwriting, were 6 words. "For Elena, when power comes calling." Elena's vision blurred. Luca saw the writing over her shoulder. His face went still. Donna took something else from the box. A small folded note, yellowed with age. "She left this with me." Elena could not breathe. "For me?" Donna nodded. Elena unfolded it carefully. The room disappeared as she read. "My sweet Elena, if you are reading this, then the world I tried to keep away has found you anyway. I am sorry, not because I saved a man. I will never be sorry for that. I am sorry because good choices can still leave terrible shadows. There will come a day when men ask you to choose between safety and doing what is right. They will make fear sound wise. They will make control sound like protection. Listen carefully. Power is not evil by itself. What matters is whose pain it obeys. If Luca Moretti stands near you when you read this, do not trust him because he is dangerous. Trust him only if his danger listens when you say stop, and if it does not, walk away with the ring and let his whole kingdom burn." Elena pressed the note against her chest. No one spoke, not even Luca, especially not Luca. When she finally looked at him, something raw passed between them. Her mother had seen him clearly, not as monster, not as savior, as a man who could become either depending on what he chose to obey. Elena folded the note with shaking hands. "My mother was braver than all of you." Donna bowed her head. "Yes." Luca's voice was low. "She was." The lights dimmed briefly as thunder rolled over the estate. Marco checked his watch. 40 minutes to midnight. Elena tucked the note into her scrub pocket beside the locket. "I need clothes. I can move in." Donna nodded to a woman near the door. "And shoes. Not heels. Not anything dramatic." For the first time that night, Donna almost smiled. Grace hated dramatic shoes too. Elena's throat tightened. She did not answer. 15 minutes later, she stood in a bedroom larger than her entire apartment, while rain streaked down tall windows, overlooking black gardens and armed patrols. A plain black sweater, dark jeans, boots, hair tied back tightly. No jewelry except the locket. No armor except a dead woman's letter, and the choice she was making with both hands shaking. When she opened the door, Luca stood in the hallway. Black suit now, black shirt, bandage hidden beneath expensive fabric. Pale but upright. Dangerous. Again. Only his eyes betrayed what it cost him. "You should not be standing," she said. "You should not be going. Looks like we're both disappointing our medical advisors." His mouth almost moved. Not quite a smile. Then he held something out. A small earpiece. Communication. "You'll hear me the whole time." Elena took it. "And if I tell you to stop?" The question hung between them. Luca's gaze lowered to the locket, then returned to her eyes. "Then I stop. Simple. Quiet. No performance." Elena wanted to believe him. That frightened her. She placed the earpiece in. Luca reached toward her, then paused, asking, without words. That paused hand did more to undo her than any command he had given. Elena allowed one small nod. He adjusted the wire near her collar with careful fingers. His knuckles brushed her throat. The contact sent a shiver through her she hated and could not deny. His voice dropped. "If anything goes wrong, you run. If anything goes wrong, I get Noah. If Dante Tushu, Luca." He stopped. Her mother's words echoed. "Trust him only if his danger listens when you say stop." Elena held his casa. "I need the man who can win, not the man who loses control." His face tightened. Then he nodded. "You'll have him." Outside, engines started. The convoy left the Moretti estate under storm and darkness. Not one long line. 3 separate routes. Decoy cars. Silent motorcycles. Unmarked vans. A city-wide net tightening around the old hospital. Elena sat beside Luca in the back of a black SUV, the locket cold beneath her sweater, her mother's letter tucked against her ribs. No one spoke for most of the ride. Chicago slid past in wet neon and shadow. Empty streets. Sirens far away. Rain running down glass like the city itself was bleeding. Finally, Elena said, "Did you love my mother?" Luca did not answer immediately. When he did, his voice was quiet. "No." She looked at him. "She saved me," he said. "She judged me. She terrified me. She made me want to be less damned than I was." His eyes stayed on the window. "But I did not love her." "Not the way you mean." Elena swallowed. "Then why this guilt?" His reflection looked back at her from the glass. "Because she asked me for one thing." "What?" "To never let her children inherit my war." Elena closed her eyes. The bitter irony almost made her laugh. Almost. She would hate this. Yes, she might hate you. She should. Elena opened her eyes. But she trusted you with the note. His jaw tightened. No. She trusted you with the choice. The SUV slowed. St. Mercy appeared through the rain like a wounded animal.
They're coming
the
for
active
us.
hospital
Not while I'm
glowed on
here,
one
fight.
side, bright and unaware. The old surgical wing crouched behind it in darkness, sealed windows, boarded corridors, forgotten bricks stained black by years of weather and secrets. Elena's pulse began to hammer. Marco's voice came through the comms. Positions set. West team ready. North tunnel ready. Cameras looping in 30 seconds. Luca touched his ear. Status on Noah? No visual yet. Elena's hands curled into fists. Luca looked at her. He's alive. You don't know that. I do. How? His voice dropped. Because Dante wants you desperate, not broken. That was not comfort, but it was strategy. And tonight, strategy was all they had. They entered through a rear maintenance door under cover of the storm. The corridor smelled like mildew, dust, and abandoned electricity. Flashlights cut narrow paths through darkness. Paint peeled from the walls. Old signs pointed toward departments that no longer existed. Surgical recovery, pathology overflow, records archive. Elena remembered being here during the flood. Back then, it had seemed creepy. Now it felt like walking through the body of a lie. Luca moved beside her, silent despite his injuries. Marco and 2 men followed. Sal's voice fed updates through the earpiece from the command van outside. Donna was at the estate, coordinating families and threatening men twice her size with the calm of a grieving queen. At the damaged alarm panel, Elena knelt. Her hands trembled only once, then steadied. She pulled the panel open and found the old wiring exactly as she remembered. "Humidity damage," she whispered. Marco crouched beside her. "Can you bypass it? I'm a nurse, not a thief." Luca looked at the wires. Red to ground. Blue stays live. Yellow cuts the alert. Elena stared at him. "You know hospital alarms too. I know exits." "Of course you do." She followed his instructions. The panel clicked. No alarm sounded. Marco's radio crackled. "We're in." They moved deeper. Then Luca stopped. So suddenly Elena nearly collided with him. "What?" He lifted a hand. "Silence." Then she heard it. A faint sound through the wall. Crying. Not Noah. A woman. Isabella. Luca's face changed. He turned toward a side corridor. Marco caught his arm. "Could be bait." "It is bait. And you're walking toward it." Luca looked at him. "It's my sister." Elena understood then with painful clarity that Dante had chosen the perfect trap. Not because Luca was reckless, because Luca could not leave blood behind, no matter how poisoned. They found Isabella in an old scrub room. She was tied to a chair but not gagged, lit by one bare surgical lamp that buzzed overhead. Her face was bruised, her wrists raw, her eyes hollow with shame. The moment she saw Luca, she began to cry. "I'm sorry," she said. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry." Luca moved toward her. Elena grabbed his hand. He stopped. She shook her head slightly. "Trust me." She stepped forward first. Isabella looked at her. "Elena Carter, you knew my mother." Isabella sobbed once. "Grace saved me. Then tell me how to save my brother." Isabella's face crumpled. "I didn't know they would take him. Dante said he only needed proof Luca still cared about the Carters. He said if I helped him get inside the route, he'd release my son." Luca went completely still. Donna's voice cracked through the comm from far away. "What son?" Isabella closed her eyes. The silence was answer enough. Luca's voice became dangerously soft. "You have a child?" Isabella looked at him. "Broken. Antonio's men took him from me 6 years ago. Dante found him. He showed me videos. He said my son was alive." Luca's face twisted for half a second. Not anger. "Ogwyn, why didn't you come to me?" "Because you kill everything that threatens this family," Isabella whispered. "And I was afraid if I told you, my son would become another battlefield." Elena felt the words strike Luca with devastating precision. Everything tonight circled the same wound. Protection that became control. Love that became war. Power that arrived too late. Marco moved to Auntie Isabella. Elena scanned the room, panic rising. "Where's Noah?" Isabella's eyes widened. "Not here." Luca turned. "What?" "It was a split feed," Isabella said quickly. "The video was staged here earlier, but Dante moved him. He knew you'd find me first." A soft click sounded overhead. Everyone froze. A speaker crackled. Then Dante's voice filled the room. "Correct." The door slammed shut behind them. Metal locks engaged. Marco cursed and fired at the lock. The bullet sparked uselessly. Gas began hissing from vents near the ceiling. Elena covered her mouth. Luca grabbed her, pulling her against his chest. Dante laughed through the speaker. "You always choose family first, Luca. That's why you were never fit to rule." Luca looked up, eyes murderous. "Where is the boy?" "Closer than you think." A screen flickered on against the far wall. Noah appeared again. This time he was in an operating room. Old, dirty, chained to a surgical table. Elena made a sound that was not quite human. "Noah." His head turned weakly. "Elena?" Dante stepped into frame beside him. No mask now. Young, handsome, black-haired like Luca.
It hurts.
But with a cruelty Luca's face had never worn so freely. He held a knife in one hand.
Not while I'm
in the
here,
other,
fight!
Grace Carter's gold bracelet. Elena, Dante said, bring the ring to operating room 9. Luca stepped toward the screen. Dante lifted the knife toward Noah's hand. Alone. Elena's blood turned to ice. Dante smiled. And Luca, if I see you before she enters, I cut the boy open on the same table where your uncle used to harvest debts from living bodies. The screen went black. The gas thickened. Isabella coughed. Marco slammed against the door again. Luca turned to Elena. No. She already knew what he meant. She shook her head. Yes, Elena. No. My brother is on that table, and if you walk in alone, Dante will take you too. Then don't let him keep me. His face tightened with fury and fear. The gas burned her lungs. Valentina's voice snapped through the comm. That's halothane derivative. You have minutes before loss of consciousness. Get low. Find ventilation. Marco was already ripping open a floor vent. Luca grabbed Elena's shoulders. Listen to me. There is no victory where you hand yourself to him. There is no victory where Noah dies while I hide behind you. I can get us out. Not fast enough. His eyes searched hers. For once, Luca Moretti had no command that could solve this. No threat. No weapon. Only the terrible truth of her choice. Elena pulled the locket from beneath her sweater. The black diamond caught the weak light. Luca's hand closed over hers. Don't. Her mother's letter burned in her pocket. If Luca Moretti stands near you when you read this, do not trust him because he is dangerous. Trust him only if his danger listens when you say stop. Elena looked into his eyes. Stop. The word struck him like a bullet. He went still. Everything in him rebelled. She saw it. The need to grab her. Hide her. Own the danger before it reached her. Burn the hospital down, if that was what it took. But he did not move. His danger listened. Elena's breath shook. I'm going to him, she said, and you're going to trust me long enough to follow the plan we haven't made yet. His voice was rough. What plan? She leaned closer and whispered, The ring is small enough to hide. The locket is what he wants to see. Understanding flashed in his eyes. She pulled the ring free with trembling fingers and pressed it into Luca's palm. Then she closed the empty locket. You keep the real power, she whispered. I carry the lie. Luca stared at the black diamond in his hand. Then, at here. Something broke open in his face. Not weakness, trust, painful, unwilling, absolute. Elena, if I'm not out in 10 minutes, no, if I'm not out in 10 minutes, you come in as the worst version of yourself. His hand closed around the ring. His eyes turned black. That I can do. Marco pried the vent open. Fresh air rushed faintly from below. Go. Luca ordered his men. Isabella coughed harder. Elena moved toward the emergency crawlspace route marked on the old blueprint. There was a narrow service passage beyond the scrub room that led toward operating rooms 7 through 10. Luca caught her hand one last time, not stopping her, holding her as if committing the feel of her to memory. Then he lifted her hand and pressed something into her palm. A tiny blade. 3 inches, he said quietly. Ceramic. Won't show on most scans. Elena almost laughed. You gave me a knife? You asked me to teach you how to survive my world. She closed her fingers around it. Their eyes met. For one impossible second, there was no gas, no gunfire, no brother on a table. Only Luca, wounded and ruthless, trusting her with the choice. Only Elena, terrified and trembling, walking into darkness because love for her brother was stronger than fear. Then she turned and crawled into the passage. The service tunnel was narrow, rusted, and black. Elena moved fast, elbows scraping metal, breath burning, empty locket tucked visibly over her sweater, ceramic blade hidden in her sleeve. Luca's voice came through her earpiece. I hear you breathing. Creepy time to say that. You're moving too fast. Slow down before you make noise. I'm crawling through hospital guts to bargain with a psychopath. Sorry my technique is imperfect. Pause. Then, impossibly, his voice softened. You're doing well. Her throat tightened. Don't sound like that. Like what? Like you're saying goodbye. Silence. Then Luca said, never. The word followed her through the dark. She reached a loose vent cover and pushed it open inch by inch. Operating room 9 lay ahead. Old surgical lights hung overhead like dead moons. Plastic sheets covered equipment. Dust floated through cold light. In the center, Noah was chained to the surgical table, face bruised, eyes wide when he saw her. Elena, he whispered. Dante stood beside him, waiting. He smiled as she stepped into the room. There she is. Elena forced herself to stand straight. Every instinct screamed at her to run to Noah, but she kept her feet still. Luca's voice whispered in her ear. 3 guards. 2 left. 1 behind the anesthesia cart. Dante has a blade. Noah's right wrist chained. Left ankle free. Elena's pulse steadied around his words. Dante's eyes dropped to the locket. Open it. Elena lifted her chin. Release my brother first. Dante laughed. You negotiate like someone who has never had power. No, she said. I negotiate like someone holding the only reason you're still talking. His smile faded slightly. Good. Luca's voice murmured. Careful. Dante stepped closer. Elena forced herself not to step back. He smelled like expensive cologne and old smoke. Grace would be disappointed, he said. Elena's fingers tightened around the hidden blade. My mother would have seen through you in 5 seconds. His eyes sharpened. She saw through everyone. That was her problem. No, her problem was saving men who didn't deserve it. Dante's gaze flicked to the locket. Give it to me. Unlock Noah. He moved faster than she expected. His hand closed around her throat and shoved her backward against an old cabinet. Pain flashed down her spine. Noah shouted. Luca's voice turned lethal in her ear. Elena. She could hear movement behind his voice. Men running. Not yet. Not yet. Dante leaned close, fingers tightening. You think because Luca wants you, you matter. Elena gasped for air. Dante smiled. You are a nurse with a dead mother, a broke apartment, and a brother who screams nicely. The only important thing about you is what Grace hid around your neck. Elena looked into his eyes, then smiled, weakly. You talk too much. She drove the ceramic blade into his side. Dante staggered back with a shocked sound. Elena ripped free, lunging toward Noah as Luca's voice exploded through the earpiece. Now, the room detonated. The left wall blew inward, not with fire, with force. Marco's team breached through the adjacent operating room, smoke and dust bursting into the air. Luca came through behind them like death dressed in black, gun raised, face pale with fury and blood loss. Dante's guards turned. They did not get a second shot. Marco dropped one. Sal dropped another. The third fired toward Elena. Luca stepped into the bullet's path. It hit his shoulder. Elena screamed. Luca did not fall. He fired once. The guard went down. For 1 second, Elena and Luca stared at each other across the operating room, her hand on Noah's chain, his blood blooming dark against his suit. Then Dante tackled her from the side. They hit the floor hard. The empty locket snapped from her neck and skidded across the tile. Dante grabbed it, laughing through pain. I have it. Luca froze. Dante crawled backward, clutching the locket, blood spreading from the wound Elena had given him. I have the ring. Elena pushed herself up, breathing hard. Noah stared at her, terrified. Luca's eyes met Elena's. She saw the moment he understood. The locket was empty. The ring was not there. It was in Luca's hand. Dante opened the locket. His smile vanished. Nothing. No black diamond. No proof. No crown. Elena stood, shaking. My mother was smarter than all of you. Dante's face twisted. He lunged toward her with the knife. Luca intercepted him. The two men crashed into the surgical cart, metal instruments scattering like silver rain. Dante fought like desperation. Luca fought like judgment, but Luca was wounded. Too wounded. Dante drove an elbow into his ribs. Luca staggered. Elena ran toward Noah, grabbing the keys from the fallen guard's belt. Her hands fumbled once, twice. "Come on," she whispered. Noah sobbed.
Stay
"Elena,
with me, we're almost
behind
there."
you." She turned. Dante had broken from Luca and was coming straight for her.
Coming for us.
Luca grabbed him
Not
from
while
behind.
I'm here, fight!
Dante twisted and plunged the knife into Luca's side. The sound that left Luca was low and terrible. Elena's world stopped. No. Luca's eyes locked on hers. Not fear. "Come on, finish it." Elena turned back to the lock. The key clicked. Noah's wrist came free. Marco seized Dante from behind, but Dante slashed backward and broke loose, stumbling toward the exit. Luca sank to one knee. Elena caught Noah and pulled him off the table. He clung to her like a child. For one heartbeat she held him. Alive. Farm. Hers. Then Dante reached the doorway and stopped. Donna Moretti stood there. Behind her were 20 armed men from 3 different families. Victor Hale was dragged beside her, bruised and terrified, hands bound. Dante's face drained. Donna looked at her nephew with grief so cold it no longer needed tears. "You used my daughter," she said. Dante lifted the bloody knife. "I am your blood." Donna's voice did not shake. "No, you are Antonio's." Dante laughed wildly. "And Luca is better? He kills, and you call it loyalty. I kill, and you call it betrayal." Donna stepped aside. Isabella entered. She looked broken, but standing. In her arms was a little boy with dark hair and frightened eyes. Dante went still. Isabella's voice cracked. "You lied." Dante's face changed. "Bella, you said he was locked away. You said Luca would kill him if he knew." Luca, still on one knee, lifted his head. His eyes moved to the child, then to Isabella. Pain crossed his face. "Never," he said. "One word. Enough." Isabella turned to Dante. "You made me betray my brother with a ghost." Dante's grip tightened on the knife. Then, for the first time, he looked afraid. Not of Luca, of losing the story that had made him righteous. Hale began laughing quietly. Everyone turned. The deputy commissioner lifted his head, face swollen, smile bloody. "This is touching, but none of you understand. The ring is not just family proof." Luca's eyes narrowed. Hale looked at Elena. Grace didn't hide it because of succession. She hid it because the diamond contains a microfilm core. Elena went cold. "What?" Hale smiled wider. "Names. Dates. Buyers. Surgeons. Judges. Donors. Every person involved in St. Mercy's old organ network." The room shifted. Luca looked down at his closed fist. The ring inside it had just become more than power. It had become evidence. A graveyard of secrets. Hale's voice dropped. "Destroy it, and your families survive. Release it, and half this city burns." Elena looked at Luca. There it was, the real choice. Not revenge or mercy. Not love or war. Power obeying whose pain. Luca slowly opened his hand. The black diamond ring lay in his palm, slick with his blood. Every eye in the room fixed on it. Dante whispered, "Give it to me." Hale said, "Give it to no one." Donna said nothing. Isabella held her child tighter. Noah clung to Elena's arm. Luca looked at the ring. Then at Elena. The old Luca Moretti would have kept it, used it, traded it, buried whatever names endangered his empire, and killed the rest by hand. Everyone in that room knew it. Elena knew it too. Her mother had known it 12 years ago. Luca's voice was rough when he spoke. Grace Carter wanted this hidden until I learned the difference between revenge and protection. He looked at Hale, then Dante, then the men from the other families. Finally, Elena. I know it now. Hale's smile disappeared. Luca placed the ring in Elena's hand. The room went utterly still. Elena stared at him. What are you doing? Choosing what my danger obeys. Her throat closed. Luca turned to the gathered men. The evidence goes public if anyone touches Elena Carter, Noah Carter, Isabella Moretti, or the boy. Dante snarled. You'd destroy us all? Luca's gaze cut to him. No, she will. Every man in the room looked at Elena. For the first time, not as bait, not as leverage, not as Grace Carter's daughter, as the person holding the match. Hale lunged suddenly, a desperate, stupid move. He tore free from one guard and reached for Elena. Luca moved, but his injuries slowed him. Noah pulled Elena back. Marco struck Hale first, driving him to the ground. But Hale had grabbed a fallen gun. The barrel swung upward, toward Noah. Elena saw it. Time fractured. Luca shouted. Donna screamed. Noah froze. Elena stepped in front of her brother. The shot rang out, but the bullet never reached her. Luca did. His body slammed into hers, knocking her back as the bullet hit him high in the chest. For 1 second, the entire world went silent. Then Luca collapsed. Elena fell with him. Blood spread beneath her hands, hot and fast. No, she gasped. No, no, no. Marco shot Hale in the shoulder before he could fire again. Sal kicked the weapon away. Donna's men seized Dante. Isabella screamed. Noah sobbed Elena's name, but Elena heard none of it. She was on the floor with Luca's head in her lap, pressing both hands against the wound.
I won't.
His eyes were open, on hair, always on her.
Not while I'm here.
You
Fight.
idiot, she whispered, voice breaking. You absolute arrogant idiot. His mouth curved faintly. Stopped. What? You said stop. A sob tore out of her. This is not funny. No. His breathing hitched. No, it's not. She pressed harder. Stay with me. His eyes softened. You always say that like I have a choice. You do. You choose me. You choose Noah. You choose protection. So choose to stay alive. Marco dropped beside them. Medical team is coming. Valentina's voice screamed through the comms, ordering pressure, oxygen, transport. Luca's hand lifted slowly. Blood trembled on his fingers. He touched Elena's wrist where he had first held her in the ER. You were never invisible, he whispered. Her tears fell onto his face. Don't do this. Grace knew. Stop talking. She knew you'd be stronger than all of us. Elena bent over him, furious and terrified. I swear to God, Luca, if you die after starting a war over me, I will bring you back just to kill you myself. A weak laugh escaped him. Then his eyes fluttered. Boss! Marco shouted. Elena shook him. Luca. His eyes opened one last time. Barely. Elena, I'm here. His voice was almost gone. Burn it clean. Then his hand fell from her wrist. The old surgical wing filled with shouting. Men moved. Orders flew. Dante screamed threats no one listened to. Hale groaned under armed guard. Noah clung to Elena while she refused to let go of Luca's bleeding body. Outside, sirens finally wailed through the storm. But this time, they were not coming to save the powerful. They were coming because Elena Carter held the black diamond ring, Grace Carter's hidden evidence, and the power to set fire to every monster who had ever mistaken kindness for weakness. And, as Luca Moretti was carried out beneath shattered surgical lights, half dead from a bullet meant for her family, every Mafia man in Chicago understood the war had changed. It was no longer Luca's war over a nurse. It was Elena's war over everyone who had made her mother disappear. By dawn, Chicago knew something had shifted. Not because of the police cars outside St. Mercy, Not because Deputy Commissioner Victor Hale had been dragged bleeding into federal custody with his own officers refusing to meet his eyes. Not because Dante Moretti disappeared behind the iron gates of the Moretti estate, with his hands bound and his face stripped of arrogance. The city knew because Luca Moretti's men stopped moving like soldiers waiting for orders. They started moving like witnesses, and every one of them had seen Elena Carter walk out of the old surgical wing with her brother on one side, Isabella Moretti's child on the other, and the black diamond ring clenched in her blood-stained hand. No one tried to take it from her. Not Sal, not Marco, not Donna Moretti, not even Luca. Elena rode with him in the ambulance. Noah begged her not to go. She looked at her brother's bruised face, touched his cheek, and whispered, "I'm not leaving you." Then she looked at Luca bleeding beneath oxygen and pressure bandages. "But I'm not letting him die either." Noah understood. Maybe not everything, but enough. He nodded with tears in his eyes and let Marco guide him into a guarded SUV. Elena climbed into the ambulance beside Luca. Valentina was already working, barking orders, cutting through Luca's shirt, opening emergency kits. Rain streaked the rear windows. Sirens screamed through empty streets. The city blurred blue and red around them. Elena pressed both hands over Luca's wound. His blood pushed between her fingers. Again, always again. "You chose a very dramatic way to prove a point," she whispered. Valentina snapped. "Less talking, more pressure. I can do both." "Of course you can," Valentina muttered. "Everyone in this family is impossible, even the ones who aren't family." Elena looked down at Luca. His face was pale, lashes dark against his skin, mouth slightly parted beneath the oxygen mask. Without his voice, without his command, he looked almost breakable. Almost. But Elena had learned the truth of him now. Luca Moretti was not unbreakable. He had been broken years ago and rebuilt himself into something sharp enough that no one dared touch the cracks. Her mother had seen them. Grace Carter had looked at a wounded young killer and decided there was still a boy under all that blood worth saving. Elena did not know if she agreed. Not yet, but she knew this. When it mattered, his danger had listened. When Elena said stop, he stopped. When she walked into the trap, he trusted her. When Hale raised the gun, Luca did not choose power, vengeance, pride, or the ring. He chose her brother's life. He chose Elena's pain over his own survival. And now his survival was in her hands again. The ambulance doors burst open at St. Mercy. This time, no one froze. The ER moved. Doctors ran. Nurses cleared the trauma bay. Security stepped aside. Luca's men stayed back because Elena lifted one bloody hand and said, "No weapons past this line." Marco hesitated. Donna Moretti, standing behind him in a black coat soaked with rain, said quietly, "You heard her." The guns stayed outside. That was the first time Elena understood what had changed. Not completely, not safely, but enough. She walked beside Luca's stretcher into Trauma Bay 3, the same room where his hand had first wrapped around her wrist and pulled her out of invisibility. Dr. Haynes was waiting inside. His face went pale when he saw Luca. Then his eyes moved to Elena. Something like shame passed through him. "Elena, not now," she said. He nodded and worked. Hours disappeared. The bullet had missed the heart by less than an inch. Less than an inch between Luca Moretti becoming a legend and Luca Moretti becoming a corpse. Elena was not allowed inside surgery this time. Valentina forced her out. "You are running on shock, grief, adrenaline, and probably vending machine coffee," the surgeon said. "Sit down before you become my second patient." "I'm fine." "You are bleeding." Elena looked down. A shallow cut crossed her forearm where glass or metal had caught her during the fight. She had not even felt it. Valentina's expression softened by half a degree. "He is alive because you kept pressure." Elena swallowed. "And if he dies?" Valentina looked through the surgical doors. Then he dies, having finally done one decent thing properly. Elena almost laughed. It broke into something else. She sat in the hallway outside the operating room, still covered in blood, still wearing the black sweater Donna had given her, still holding her mother's ring box in one hand and the black diamond ring in the other. Noah sat beside her. He leaned his head on her shoulder like he used to when he was little. Neither of them spoke for a long time. Then Noah whispered, "Mom was kind of terrifying." Elena let out a broken laugh. "Yeah, she hid Mafia evidence in a necklace. Apparently, she saved people from organ traffickers. Apparently, she knew a Mafia boss." Elena closed her eyes. "Apparently." Noah was quiet. Then he said, "I wish she told us." Elena looked down at the black diamond. "I think she wanted us to have a normal life." Noah laughed bitterly. "How'd that work out?" Elena's fingers closed around the ring. "It starts now." He lifted his head. "What does?" She looked at the surgical doors, then down the hallway where Donna Moretti stood speaking quietly with Sal, where Marco watched every entrance, where federal agents had begun filling St. Mercy with warrants and questions because the evidence Hale feared was already being copied, decrypted, and sent to people too powerful to silence all at once. Elena's voice steadied. "Mom's truth." By noon, the first names leaked. Not to gossip blogs, not to Mafia channels, to federal prosecutors, investigative journalists, and
Stay
three
with me, we're
independent
almost
attorneys
there.
Grace Carter had apparently selected 12
I
years
won't.
earlier.
Hold on to me.
Donna Moretti
They're
watched
coming
Elena
for us.
make the calls.
Not while I'm here.
She did not
Fight.
interfere. When one attorney asked who authorized the release, Elena said, "Grace Carter did." Then she sent the files. The black diamond was not merely a ring. Inside its hollow core was a strip of microfilm so small Elena could barely believe it had carried the weight of so many ghosts. Names, dates, payments, illegal surgeries, missing patients, death certificates altered, judges bribed, police paid, hospital executives protected, donor lists filled with men who had shaken hands at charity galas, while poor bodies were carved open in hidden rooms beneath St. Mercy. The city began bleeding secrets before sunset. Victor Hale's public image collapsed first. His office denied everything for 40 minutes. Then, a video surfaced of him in the old surgical wing. Then bank records. Then phone locks. Then the names of officers on his payroll. By evening, 3 judges had resigned, 2 hospital board members had fled, and a senator's son was photographed leaving Chicago on a private jet that never got permission to take off. Luca remained unconscious. Elena sat beside his hospital bed as the city outside began to burn clean. Not with fire, with truth. Marco came in just after dusk. He stood near the doorway, unusually quiet. Elena did not look up. "What?" "Dante is secured. Alive? For now." She looked at him then. Marco's face revealed nothing, but she had learned to read the pauses around Mafia men. "No." Marco blinked. "No. No torture. No basement justice. No disappearing him." His jaw tightened. "He kidnapped your brother." "I know. He used Isabella." "I know. He tried to kill Luca." Elena stood slowly. "And if you turn him into another body, buried under another family secret, then nothing changes." Marco looked past her toward Luca. "He would want—" "I don't care what the old Luca would want." The room went silent. Elena stepped closer. "Dante goes to the authorities with the evidence. Hale, too. Everyone involved. Public. Recorded. No quiet revenge." Marco stared at her like she had asked him to cut off his own hand. "This is not how our world works." Elena's voice hardened. "Then change your world." He almost smiled. Not happily. More like he had finally understood why Luca had looked at her like that. "You sound like him." "No," she said. "I sound like my mother." Marco lowered his eyes. For a man like him, it was almost a bow. I'll tell Donna. No, Elena said. I will. Donna Moretti was in the chapel. Elena found her alone beneath stained glass, sitting in the back pew with her hands folded, looking less like a Mafia matriarch and more like a mother who had lost too many versions of her children. She did not turn when Elena entered. Is my son alive? Yes. Good. The single word cracked. Elena sat beside her. For a while, neither woman spoke. The chapel smelled like old wood, candle wax, and rain-damp coats. Outside, reporters shouted behind police barriers. Inside, grief sat quietly between two women who had inherited different parts of the same war. Finally, Elena said, Dante goes public. Donna's face did not move. No quiet execution. No revenge hidden behind family honor. He answers for what he did where everyone can see. Donna turned slightly. And if the courts fail, then we expose that. Too, you have a dangerous faith in systems. No, Elena said. I have no faith left. That's why everything goes into the light. Donna studied her. You think light stops monsters? Elena looked toward the candles. No, but it makes it harder for them to pretend they're saints. For the first time, Donna's expression shifted into something like respect. Grace would have liked that answer. Elena's throat tightened. I don't know what Grace would have liked anymore. Every version of her I knew was missing pieces. Donna reached into her coat and removed the faded photograph from the wooden box. Grace Carter, outside St. Mercy. Isabella as a haunted teenager. Noah as a little boy. A life Elena had never known existed. Your mother was not less your mother because she had secrets, Donna said quietly. She was more than the pain she allowed you to see. Elena stared at the photo. Her anger did not vanish, but it softened around the edges of love. I keep thinking she should have told me. She probably thought she had more time. That broke through. Elena closed her eyes. Tears slipped down her face. Donna did not touch her. She simply sat beside her while Elena cried for the woman she lost, the woman she never knew, and the woman who had somehow reached through death to place a weapon in her daughter's hand. When Elena returned to Luca's room, he was awake, barely. His eyes opened as she stepped inside. Dark, tired, still him. For 1 second, she stopped breathing. Then, anger saved her from collapsing. You are the most reckless man I have ever met. His mouth curved weakly. Good evening to you too. She moved to his bedside. You were shot. I noticed. You nearly died. That has become a pattern. I hate that pattern. His eyes softened. Noted. She folded her arms. No. Not noted. Changed. Luca watched her carefully. Even wounded, half-drugged, barely able to move.
We're almost there.
He gave her his full attention like nothing else in the world had permission to interrupt.
They're coming for us.
No.
Not while I'm
You
here.
listen.
Fight.
His mouth closed. Good. She stepped closer to the bed. Dante goes public. Hale goes public. The evidence goes public. No secret executions. No convenient disappearances. No revenge dressed up like justice. His gaze did not leave hers. That will expose my family. Yes, it will weaken the empire. Yes, it may start another war. Maybe. His voice lowered. And if I refuse? Elena leaned over him, close enough to see the exhaustion beneath his eyes. Then my mother was right to keep the ring away from you. The words landed hard. Luca looked at her for a long moment. Then he closed his eyes, not in anger, in acceptance. When he opened them again, something had changed. A surrender, deeper than obedience. A choice. Then we do it your way, he said. Elena's throat tightened. My way is going to hurt. His eyes held hers. Most clean things do. For a moment, neither of them moved. The machines beeped softly. Rain tapped against the hospital window. The city outside roared with scandal and sirens and truth breaking through locked doors. Elena looked at the man in the bed. The man who had controlled rooms with silence. The man who had started a war because someone threatened a nurse. The man who had once mistaken protection for possession and was now, painfully, learning the difference. She took the silver band from her pocket. Grace's ring. Luca's eyes dropped to it. His face changed. You don't have to. I know. Her fingers curled around it. I'm not giving this back to you. He went still. Elena looked at him steadily. My mother said this belonged to me. So I'm keeping it until I decide what kind of man you are when you're not bleeding, guilty, or trying to die dramatically in front of me. A faint smile touched his mouth. That may take a while. Good. I'm patient with difficult cases. His smile faded into something softer, more dangerous because it was honest. Elena. Her name no longer sounded like a claim. It sounded like reverence. She hated how much that affected her. She slid the silver band onto a chain and fastened it beside her mother's locket. The black diamond ring was already sealed in federal evidence under 3 names, with copies of everything sent beyond the reach of any single corrupt hand. The silver band rested against her heart. A different kind of power. One not inherited by bloodline. One chosen. Over the next week, Elena Carter stopped being invisible. Reporters waited outside her apartment. So she did not return there. Not because Luca ordered it. Because she chose safety for Noah while the city tore open around them. She moved temporarily into a secure apartment arranged by Donna, with Noah in the next room, Isabella and her son under federal protection, and Marco stationed outside the door looking deeply uncomfortable whenever Elena made him carry groceries instead of guns. St. Mercy suspended 3 administrators, then 5. Then the entire old board resigned. A federal investigation reopened every death connected to the old surgical wing. Grace Carter's name appeared in headlines, not as a victim, as a whistleblower, as the nurse who preserved the evidence that exposed one of Chicago's darkest networks. Elena read every article. Some made her angry. Some got details wrong. Some turned her mother into a saint, which Elena hated because Grace had been funnier, messier, warmer, and more stubborn than any saint had a right to be. But when she saw the photograph of Grace outside St. Mercy printed beside the words, "Hero Nurse," Elena cried for 20 minutes in the bathroom, where Noah could not hear. Then she washed her face and went back out, because grief did not get to swallow the work. 2 weeks after the shooting, Elena stood in a press room beside federal prosecutors, hospital investigators, and 3 attorneys who kept looking at her like they could not believe. A nurse in a simple navy dress had forced half the city to answer the phone. Cameras flashed. Questions flew. Elena ignored most of them. Then one reporter asked, "Miss Carter, do you believe Luca Moretti is a hero in this story?" The room went quiet. Elena thought of Luca bleeding on the surgical floor. Luca taking the bullet. Luca placing the ring in her hand. Luca watching her with the expression of a man learning to kneel without lowering his head. Then she thought of her mother poisoned slowly because violent men thought good women were disposable. "No," Elena said. The cameras clicked faster. "Heroes don't need to be forced to do the right thing. Luca Moretti is not a hero." Somewhere near the back of the room, Marco tensed. Elena continued, "He is a dangerous man who made a choice. And choices matter. But one good choice does not erase a lifetime. It begins a different one." The room fell silent. Elena looked directly into the cameras. "My mother believed kindness without power was vulnerable. She also believed power without conscience was just another weapon. I intend to honor both lessons." By nightfall, the clip was everywhere. Some called her brave. Some called her foolish. Some called her Luca Moretti's weakness. That one made Luca laugh when she visited him at the private recovery floor Donna had somehow secured inside St. Mercy. He was standing by the window when she entered, despite medical orders, of course. Black shirt, palifazzi, bandage beneath the fabric. Alive. "You're supposed to be in bed. Elena said. You gave a press conference calling me dangerous. I needed to recover emotionally. She rolled her eyes. Sit down before I recover you physically. He obeyed, slowly, with theatrical suffering. Elena tried not to smile, and failed. He saw it. The room warmed dangerously. She placed a folder on the table beside him. What is that? He asked. Your new problem. I have several. This one comes with paperwork. His expression darkened. Cruel woman. Elena opened the folder. Scholarship fund, in Grace Carter's name, for nurses, whistleblowers, and families affected by medical corruption. Luca looked at the pages. Then, at here. You want me to fund it? No. His brows drew together slightly. I want you to fund the first half. Publicly. Legally. Fully audited. No dirty money. No intimidation. No family channels. His mouth curved faintly. And the second half comes from liquidated assets seized from Hale's network. You've been busy. I had a good teacher. His eyes sharpened with something like pleasure. Then she added, not you. He looked offended. Elena. My mother. His expression softened. Yes. She sat across from him. There's another condition. Of course there is. You stop watching my life from a distance. The room went still. He looked at her. She held his gaze. If you want to know where I am, you ask. If you want to help Noah, you ask. If you think I'm in danger, you tell me what you know and let me decide. No files, no surveillance, no men following me. Unless I agree. Luca was silent long enough that old fear stirred. Then he said, done. Elena blinked. That's it? Yes. No argument. You said stop. I stop. Her throat tightened. It was such a small sentence. Such a massive thing. She looked down at her hands. I don't know what this is between us. Luca's voice was low. Neither do I. That surprised her. He leaned forward slightly, careful of his wounds. I know what I want it to be, but wanting has never made me safe. Elena looked up. Are you warning me away from you? I am giving you the truth before desire makes me selfish. The honesty hit too close. Her pulse changed. She stood, because sitting near him suddenly felt dangerous in a different way. Luca did not move. He let her choose the distance. That mattered. Elena walked to the window, looking down at Chicago glowing beneath the night. The city was still corrupt, still hungry, still full of men who thought money and violence made them gods. But something had cracked, and through that crack, her mother's name had become a blade of light. I spent my whole life trying to survive quietly, Elena said. Luca watched her reflection in the glass. I know. I don't think I can go back to that. No. She touched the locket at her throat. I don't want your empire. I wouldn't give it to you. She turned. He held her gaze. I would burn it before I let it own you. The words moved through her like thunder. Not a claim. A promise. Elena crossed back to him slowly. His eyes followed every step, dark and controlled, but his hands stayed open on his knees. No reaching, no taking, no command. She stopped in front of him. You're learning. His mouth curved faintly. I have a demanding instructor. She charges by emotional damage. Expensive. Very. For the first time, his smile reached his eyes. It was brief, beautiful in a way that hurt. Elena leaned down and kissed his cheek. Not his mouth. Not yet. A choice. A beginning. Luca went completely still beneath the touch. When she pulled back, his eyes were darker than before, but he did not move after her. Good night, Luca. His voice was rough. Good night, Elena. She reached the door before he spoke again. Elena. She turned. He looked at her with the kind of restraint that made her chest ache. For what it's worth, I did not start a war over a nurse. She lifted an eyebrow. No? No. His gaze dropped to the locket, then returned to her face. I started a war because a woman who had every reason to fear me stood between my worst self and the world, and somehow made me want to be worthy of stopping. Elena said nothing. For once, she had no sharp reply ready. Luca's voice softened, but the next war? Her heart beat once. Hard. He leaned back against the pillows. Pale and wounded and impossibly dangerous.
It hurts.
The next one is yours. I'll only stand beside you. Elena held his gaze from the doorway.
Not while I'm
Outside,
here, fight!
Chicago burned with truth. Inside, the most feared man in the city waited for her answer, instead of taking it. And for the first time in her life, Elena Carter did not feel chosen by danger. She felt like danger had finally learned to ask permission. 3 months later, Chicago saw Elena Carter smile on the steps of St. Mercy Hospital. Not the tired smile she used to give patients at 4 in the morning when her feet hurt and her heart felt empty. Not the polite smile she used to offer men who called her sweetheart while threatening her future. This smile was different. Small, real, still carrying grief, but no longer kneeling beneath it. Behind her, the old surgical wing of St. Mercy was sealed behind federal tape and guarded doors. Investigators still moved through it daily, carrying boxes of records, evidence bags, and names that had once belonged to untouchable people. The city had not healed. Cities like Chicago did not heal quickly, but wounds had been opened to the light, and for the first time in years, Elena felt like the bleeding meant something. Grace Carter's name was carved on a new bronze plaque near the hospital entrance. Grace Carter Memorial Fund, for nurses who choose truth over fear. Elena stood in front of it with Noah beside her. He was thinner now, quieter in some ways, but alive. His bruises had faded. He had gone back to school. He still pretended he was fine too often, and Elena still pretended she believed him only when he needed space. He looked at the plaque for a long time. Mom would hate all the attention, he said. Elena smiled through the ache in her chest. She would pretend to hate it. She'd say the font was too fancy. She'd absolutely say that. Noah laughed softly. Then his expression changed. I miss hair. Elena took his hand. Me too. They stood together in the cold morning air while cameras flashed from behind barricades and nurses gathered near the entrance, some crying openly, some holding candles, some wearing blue ribbons pinned to their scrubs. A hospital that had once buried Grace Carter's truth now had to speak her name every day. Elena did not think that fixed anything, but it mattered. Sometimes justice did not arrive as thunder. Sometimes it arrived as a plaque, a scholarship, a reopened case file, and a daughter finally learning that her mother had not died quietly. She had died protecting a truth powerful men feared, and now that truth had outlived them. Donna Moretti attended the ceremony in black. She did not stand near the cameras. She stood at the edge of the crowd with Isabella and her son, quiet and watchful beneath the gray sky. Isabella looked different too, still haunted, still healing, but her son's hand was wrapped around hers, and that changed the shape of her grief. Dante had not stolen everything from her, not permanently. Dante Moretti was awaiting trial under federal protection, so strict even the families could not reach him. Victor Hale had tried to bargain. Then the second wave of files released. Then the third. By the time prosecutors finished reading Grace Carter's evidence, Hale had stopped smiling. Elena liked knowing that. She liked it more than she admitted. When the ceremony ended, people approached her carefully. Nurses hugged her. Reporters called her brave. Hospital executives used words like transparency and accountability until Elena looked at them long enough that they found reasons to leave. Then, as the crowd thinned, Marco appeared beside her holding 2 paper cups of coffee. He looked deeply uncomfortable. Elena eyed him. Is one of those for me? Yes. Did you buy it legally? His mouth twitched. I am capable of purchasing coffee. I had to ask. He handed her the cup. Noah grinned. Did she make you carry groceries again? Marco looked personally wounded. Once. 4 times. Elena corrected. 3.5. 1 bag contained paper towels. Noah laughed. Elena watched Marco pretend not to enjoy it. That was another strange thing about surviving a war. People became human afterward. Not innocent. Never that. But human. Marco glanced toward the street. He's waiting. Elena's fingers tightened around the coffee cup. She did not ask who. She already knew. Across the road, behind a line of black cars, Luca Moretti stood beneath a bare winter tree. No bodyguards crowding him. No command in his posture. Just Luca. Black coat. Dark hair. Pale from recovery, but stronger now. The bullet scar beneath his shirt was healing. The wound in his shoulder still bothered him when it rained, though he refused to admit it unless Elena stared at him long enough. He had not come closer. He had promised not to turn her life into a cage, so he waited where she could choose whether to cross the street. Elena hated how much that moved her. Noah saw him too. "You can go," he said. She looked at her brother. "I'm not leaving you. You're crossing a street, not joining a cult." "Debatable." Noah smiled, then softened. "Elena." She looked at him. "I'm okay." She studied his face, searching for the lie. There was fear there, still, but also strength. Not the forced kind he had worn as a child at their mother's funeral. His own. She touched his cheek. "When did you get so grown?" "Probably while you were busy yelling at Mafia people." "Someone had to." He hugged her suddenly, tight and fast. "I'm glad he took the bullet," Noah whispered. Elena closed her eyes. "Don't say that. I mean it. I'm glad he chose you."
Stay with me, we're
She
almost
held
there.
her brother harder,
It hurts.
then let
Don't
go.
let go.
When she crossed the street,
Hold on to me.
Luca watched
They're
her
coming
every
for us.
step like the
Not while
world
I'm
was
here,
holding its
fight.
breath with him. He did not move toward her, not until she stopped in front of him. "Nice ceremony," he said. Elena lifted an eyebrow. "That's your opening line?" "I considered several, and you chose nice ceremony." "I was told not to be dramatic before noon." "Good advice." "Yours." "Excellent advice." His mouth curved. The smile was still rare, still dangerous, still capable of making something inside her forget all her better judgment. But now it no longer felt like a trap. It felt like a door she could open or close with her own hand. Luca looked past her toward the plaque. She would have hated the font. Elena laughed before she could stop herself. The sound surprised them both. Then it softened into tears. She did not try to hide. Luca's expression changed. He reached for her, then paused. Always now, always asking. Elena stepped into him. His arms came around her slowly, carefully, like he was holding something entrusted rather than something owned. She rested her forehead against his chest. His heart beat steady beneath her ear, alive. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The city moved around them. Cars passed. Reporters shouted. Nurses cried. Somewhere behind them, Noah was probably pretending not to watch. Elena closed her eyes. "I still don't forgive you for everything." Luca's hand stilled against her back. "I know. I may never. I know. But I don't hate you today." His breath changed. Just slightly. For Luca, it was almost collapse. Elena pulled back enough to look at him. His eyes were darker than the morning around them, but there was no demand inside them now. Only patience, pine, and something that looked terrifyingly like hope. "I'll take today," he said. She touched the silver band hanging beside her mother's locket. Grace's ring rested there now, warm from Elena's skin. The black diamond was gone from her hands, locked away in federal evidence, copied, exposed, stripped of myth and bloodline power. But the silver band stayed, not as a promise to Luca, not yet, as a promise to herself. That power would never again enter her life. Disguised as control, that love would never again demand silence. That kindness would never again stand alone without teeth. Luca noticed her fingers on the ring. "Have you decided what kind of man I am yet?" he asked quietly. Elena looked at him. "No." His mouth curved faintly. "Fair, but I've decided what kind of man you're trying to become." His smile disappeared. That reached him, deeply. She saw it in the way his guard fell for one unprotected second. And Elena stepped closer, her voice soft, one worth watching. His eyes closed briefly. When he opened them, the monster everyone feared was still there, but it was not alone anymore. There was a man beside it, wounded, trying, learning to stop, learning to ask, learning that protection without freedom was just another form of violence. Luca brushed his thumb lightly over her wrist, the same place he had held her in the ER that first night. This time, his touch was not a claim. It was a memory, a question. Elena turned her hand and threaded her fingers through his. His gaze dropped to their joined hands, then back to her face. No triumph, no possession, only quiet wonder. Across the street, Noah shouted, "I can still see you!" Elena groaned. Luca's lips twitched. "I like him. He does not like you." "No, but he respects my survival rate. He said you're emotionally suspicious. He is wise." Elena laughed again, and this time it did not hurt as much. Luca looked at her like he would spend the rest of his life remembering that sound. That should have scared her. Maybe it still did, but fear was no longer the only thing in her. There was grief. There was anger. There was power. There was her mother's voice in a letter folded safely inside her apartment. There was Noah's future. There was the hospital behind her, no longer just a place of exhaustion, but a battlefield where truth had finally won one round. And there was Luca Moretti standing beside her, not in front of her. For now, that was enough. Later, people would tell the story differently. Some would say Luca Moretti started a war because he fell in love with a nurse. Some would say Elena Carter tamed a monster. Some would say Grace Carter reached out from the grave and destroyed an empire. They would all be wrong. The truth was stranger. A nurse saved a wounded man. A wounded man failed to save her mother. A mother hid a secret inside love. A daughter turned that secret into a weapon. And somewhere in the wreckage, the most dangerous man in Chicago learned that the woman he wanted was not someone to possess, protect, or command. She was someone to stand beside. Elena looked up at Luca beneath the winter sky. "So," she said, "are you going to keep funding the scholarship without making dramatic speeches?" His expression turned solemn. "I make no promises about the speeches." "Luca," he smiled. "I'll try." She narrowed her eyes. "Try harder." "Yes, nurse." The old words returned between them, but this time they carried warmth, not danger, not blood, not the beginning of a war, the beginning of something after. Elena squeezed his hand once, then led him back across the street toward Noah, toward Grace's plaque, toward the city still bruised but breathing. Luca followed, not because he had to, because she chose to take his hand, and he had finally learned the difference.